Hello and welcome to Arroyo Seco Saint Baseball. My name is Ryan Osborne, joined by Stephen Baltiera. And Stephen, we have Arroyo Seco and the OC Riptide. Stop me if you've heard that before.
Team that beat you in a walk-off fashion last Friday. You want to get back at them. You have that revenge, kind of a little bitter taste in your mouth. So this is a game that's really a must-win situation for the Saints.
You look at both of these two squads, and while we've already talked about Arroyo Seco, you look at the other side for the OC Riptide. They're a team that is the defending CCL champions. Last year, they go right through the tournament. They take home that championship trophy. This year, you're trying to turn it around and have that same type of book. They start out the season right here at Brookside Park, Jackie Robinson Field, taking on the Arroyo Seco Saints. Arroyo Seco takes home a 6-2 win. It looks
too much in a long season like this in the CCL when you're playing 40-plus games overall in the season. So, like I said, I think the OC Riptide are going to be fine. The Santa Barbara Foresters, right now in first place in the CCL, are a team to watch out for. They look like a pretty complete team so far, but the OC Riptide are obviously going to be right there too.
The last time I was out here at Brookside Park, it was last Tuesday against the said Santa Barbara Foresters, in which Arroyo Seco nearly came back from a 10-run deficit. They brought it all the way back to 10-7, and that's where that final score would sit. But you look at Arroyo Seco, they have the ability to drive in runs. The question is, can they come up with timely runs? They can bring them in, but can they bring them in when it counts? You said yesterday, or excuse me, earlier today before we went on the broadcast, about that game on Friday night at OC Riptide, in which they left the bases loaded with no outs, and they had an opportunity to extend a lead. They just weren't able to get the timely hits.
Yeah, I think if you ask any Major League GM, you ask any Major League coach, what is the most important run? It's the 2-out RBI. And I think that so far the Saints have not been able to cash in 2-out RBIs. I think you mentioned they have a pretty good offense, a lot of big bats in this lineup, but they haven't been able to cash in that timely run like you mentioned. That 2-out RBI, which is a big momentum shift in games. When you're able to get 2-out RBIs so far in games, those are big momentum shifts as a team. So for the Saints, if they want to move forward and they want to start winning ball games, those runners on second base with 2 outs, you got to start cashing those balls in, those runs in, because if you don't get those runs in, the momentum goes back to the visitor team.
In a couple of minutes, we're going to have ourselves the national anthem, in addition to having the starting lineups come up here in just a little bit. Once again, my name is Ryan Osborne, joined by Stephen Baltiera, as we get set for the Arroyo Seco Saints, who occupy the left-hand dugout, and the OC Riptide, coached by Coach Jason Smith, also assistant coach Mitch Levere as well, and Willie Cool as the pitching coach over towards our right-hand side. It's going to be an interesting matchup this afternoon. I mean, you talked about the pitchers for Arroyo Seco, and they haven't been able to throw strikes. They haven't been able to keep the ball in the zone. And now all of a sudden you're going against a team that is very offensive-minded in the OC Riptide, and they can put runs on the board. Maybe not quite at the pace of Santa Barbara, but they can definitely put them on.
Of course, and I think you're looking at a guy on the mound right now for the Saints going today, is a guy who struggled in his last outing, Colin King, last 2 Saturdays ago against the San Diego Force in a non-league game. Had a pretty bit of a rough outing that night, so you're going to look for him to bounce back. But like you said, it's a pretty good offense over there in the OC Riptide, so it's not going to be an easy task for him if you're looking at it.
So let's go over this uniform matchup that we see here for those of you who are watching online. To your right-hand side, you see Coach Jason Smith and the OC Riptide, as this afternoon they're going to go with those, we'll say, white panel front caps with royal blue. Their tops in, what, orange? Just traditional orange?
A little bit of orange, not a little bit of burnt orange maybe.
Yeah, there you go, some sunburnt orange, I guess you would say. In addition to royal blue lettering outlined in white, pants in white, and stirrups in a 3-stripe pattern, white, orange, white. Over to the left-hand side, you see Coach Bueller, the head coach of the Arroyo Seco Saints. Well, under that jacket that he has, it is Arroyo Seco going with their completely white uniforms this afternoon. They're going to go with the Arroyo Seco script tops in navy blue. That has the script outlined in gold and white as well. They're going with the navy blue caps this afternoon and some navy blue and gold piping right down the pant leg as well. For those in stirrups, it is navy blue with white sanitaries.
I'll tell you what, Ryan, real quick. The Saints, they might be losing games, but they look pretty good losing games because those uniforms are pretty fresh if you ask me.
Well, you look at the Saints, and they have 4 different uniform top combos. They have 4 different uniform pant combos, in addition to a couple of different stirrup sock combinations. This is a team that can really look good when they're playing a ball game. And you look down the left-hand side, and you're already saying, okay, this looks like not just a bunch of college guys who are here to play baseball this afternoon, but they look like professional baseball players. And for those who have the aspirations to go and play, you always want to be presentable to a possible scout or someone such as a head coach who shows up in attendance. You want to look the part. If you feel like you have the ability and you want to be a professional baseball player, you need to look the part. And both of these teams this afternoon, they have that ability.
100%. I think for the Saints especially, looking at their lineups, and obviously this is all baseball superstition and the different superstitious attitudes that go into baseball and the baseball culture. But if you're the Saints, 5 straight losses, you got to do something to switch it up. You can't be doing the same thing. I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You got to do something different. Maybe go stirrups this time, maybe go pants down, maybe go no wrist tape. You got to do something different in what you wear as how you prepare for the games to try to get out of this funk if you're the Saints.
You see our umpires right in the middle as the starting lineups are announced here in a little bit. We'll get to the starting lineups. Don't worry about it as soon as the national anthem is over, as the national anthem comes up in just a second. We set Jackie Robinson Field for you here down the left field line. It's cavernous, to say the least. 374 down the left field line into center. It is 364, and down that right field line, it is 345. It's the short porch in right, and for Arroyo Seco fans, they're hoping that they can take advantage of it this afternoon. So Colin King is announced as the final person in the lineup, and we'll take a quick break for the national anthem. And when we come back, Arroyo Seco and the OC Riptide.
Now, please rise for our national.
We are back with Arroyo Seco Baseball. We thank you for joining us here this afternoon. Once again, it is the Arroyo Seco Saints taking on the OC Riptide. 2-7 Arroyo Seco. They are taking the field right now, and the OC Riptide, they'll be coming up to the plate first this afternoon. They are 8-3. Starting lineup, batting order-wise, for the OC Riptide, Aaron Simpson will be batting first, followed by Luke Bandy and Steve Curry. Then Jake Prees and Mason McCorder, who had that 3-home run, or who has that 3-home run season, as Steven mentioned earlier. Austin Soika will be batting sixth, followed by Chase Sebi. And then Jacob Dominguez, the redshirt freshman out of Cal State Fullerton, followed by Bradley Jekic. Their pitcher this afternoon will be Jason Fariz. For Arroyo Seco in the field, they're going to go with Colin King on the mound. Behind home plate will be Michael Gomez, and over at first base will be Cooper Williams. Down at second will be Gabe Chavez, and at third, patrolling the hot corner, is Colin Shepard, who normally we would see at the second base bag. At shortstop is Drew Cowley. In left field is Dalton Ney. And in center field, it is Jack Smith with Cameron Briggs in right. Finishing up his warm-up tosses is Colin King as we get set for baseball here at Jackie Robinson Field in Pasadena's Brookside Park. Beautiful setting, sun setting directly behind home plate. We talked about this before, the way that the sun kind of sets. It's pretty unique to the way that Brookside Park and Jackie Robinson Field kind of sits. If you're a pitcher starting off a game, the first thing that you see is the sun. You're staring directly into the sun. So those middle infielders and also the third baseman is going to have a lot of trouble keeping up with that sun that is going to be setting directly behind us.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed later in games here at Jackie Robinson Field is that the shade starts playing a factor between the pitcher and the hitter.
First pitch goes inside, and 1 ball and no strikes. Colin King on the mound as he looks in for the sign from Gomez. Next delivery, it's over the plate and hacked at as it gets popped up over towards the first base side. Cooper Williams backtracking and makes a one-handed catch over to his right side, and that will be out number 1.
Yeah, and if you're Colin King, it's a good start right there. Getting 2 pitches, 1 out. You want to get ahead in the count early, finish batters off. Don't want to raise that pitch count up too high for King.
We are in inning number 1, just underway. We thank you for joining us here on Arroyo Seco Baseball. 15th year of Arroyo Seco Baseball. Next delivery from Colin King, and that one shades towards the outside half. Doesn't clip the outside part of the strike zone. 1 ball and no strikes with 1 gone. King turns his back and delivers. It gets popped up towards left field. Charging in on it to make the catch will be Dalton Ney, and he does indeed complete the out.
And you look at that, 4 pitches already, 2 outs for Colin King. That's something. It's going to set the tone for these Saints pitchers. He kind of got inside the hands right there on Bandy, so that's something you want to see if you're Colin King, establish the inside part of the zone.
And you talk about that, Steven. Last time he went onto the mound, it was exactly 1 week ago against Santa Barbara here at Jackie Robinson Field as he goes into his wind and delivers too high, 1-0. And he really had a tough start against Santa Barbara. I mean, he gave up 4 runs in the first inning and then had some trouble getting out of the second as well, and he would be subbed out in that second inning. 2 balls and no strikes.
Yeah, and if you're Colin King, I mean, the good news is he's not facing the Santa Barbara Foresters lineup. He's facing this OC Riptide lineup, who he threw 4 innings in the first game against the Riptide of the season. 4 innings, 1 run. So, I mean, he's had some moderate success against his Riptide lineup so far this season.
3 balls and no strikes. At the plate is Steve Curry. Next delivery is right down the middle. So Colin King is able to find it, and Curry will have to watch on as it's now 3-1.
Curry so far this season batting .455, so one of the best hitters for the Riptide on the season.
And he pops this one foul into the crowd towards the right-hand side as a couple people duck out of the way. So that makes it 3 balls and 2 strikes. It's a full count. This one is fouled straight back once more.
Yeah, and if you're King right here, it's pretty vital right now. If you want to get a 1-2-3 inning, like I said, establish the tone of this game, kind of get your team back in the dugout, back hitting, and not really give up any runs here.
Next delivery, chopped down the third base line. It ends up just going foul right before Colin Shepard could get to it in time.
And Colin Shepard getting the start at third base. Usually the starting second baseman for the Saints so far this season, but getting the start at third base, I think because of the newly acquired Gabe Chavez they've had for the first game of the season for the Saints.
King looking to set down Curry on a 3-2 pitch, 3rd straight pitch that we will see at 3-2. Next delivery to right-handed Curry, and he sends this one down towards third. Shepard will pick it up, trying to toss across. It is in time as Cooper Williams is able to make a stretch. Colin King has himself a 1-2-3 inning to start things off, and that'll do it for the top half of the first. We go to the bottom half of the first. No runs, no hits, no errors, and no one left on base. The score deadlocked at 0. This is Arroyo Seco Baseball. We welcome you back to Arroyo Seco Baseball. Ryan Osborne joined by Steven Baltiero over to my right-hand side as we get set for the Arroyo Seco Saints to come up to the plate for the first time this afternoon. Gabe Chavez will be followed by Drew Cowley and then John Thomas. Those are the first three in the order. Then Cooper Williams will have his turn in the cleanup spot. First pitch goes well outside for 1 ball and no strikes.
Gabe Chavez, sorry about that. Gabe Chavez's first start or first game for the Saints so far this season, so good chance to see what he does for the Saints.
And he immediately takes high for 2-0. Michael Gomez will be hitting in the 5 spot, Colin Shepard in the 6, and then Jack Smith right behind them. 8 and 9 is Cameron Briggs and Dalton Ney. Right-handed batter straight up stands for Chavez. He takes a heater that goes low for 3 balls and no strikes from Jason Fariz.
Yeah, looking at Gabe Chavez, one of the smaller guys in the Saints lineup so far for them, but he's been a veteran of the Saints team. Was here last year for the Saints as he takes a strike there.
Next pitch goes inside for 3-1. 14 appearances for Jason Fariz on the mound for IVC. As the next one goes up high and Chavez works a walk. So immediately he makes an impact as soon as he is entered into the lineup. As coming up is Drew Cowley.
I believe we heard a little bit of Notorious B.I.G. over the speakers in the PA for the walk-up song. So
just for a second. Enough to tease.
Enough to get Cowley in the zone, I guess.
Fariz, who's on the mound, started 9 games, went 3-4, and a 6.25 ERA with 34 strikeouts and 40 1/3 innings pitched. He's quickly got a 1 ball and no strike count to Drew Cowley. Cowley, a left-handed hitter, going lefty on lefty. Gabe Chavez over at first, takes a little bit of a look towards second, and leans for a quick minute, and immediately dashes back to first as that goes up and high for 2 balls and no strikes.
And looking at Cowley so far this season, has 4 doubles, so leaves the Saints in extra base hits on the season so far.
2-0, OC Riptide in the field. Arroyo Seco is at the dish. Next up, that is inside once more, so it's 3-0 for the second straight batter for Arroyo Seco. Coach Buehler is happy.
And we were talking about, the Saints, their pitchers struggling with command, and you're looking at the Riptide so far, Freezy, having struggled with command. And when you do that, it's always a recipe for disaster if you're a pitcher.
Freezy goes into the set, delivers home. Of course, he's going to try his absolute best to pump that strike over the middle with a 3 ball and no strike count, and he does so. A fastball towards that outer half, and Cowley takes it all the way. 3 balls and 1 strike. Bottom half of the first inning, 0-0 score. Gabe Chavez is over at first. Next up to Cowley, he inside-outs it towards left field. Chavez is digging around second, thinks about third, but it's just shallow enough as getting to it in time to keep Chavez at second base will be the left fielder, Aaron Simpson.
Yeah, and so far this season, look at the Saints. This is what you want to do. They really haven't been able to get off to a fast start as far as the first inning goes. Already runners on first and second and nobody out, and you have the hottest hitter in the Saints lineup in John Thomas, who's batting .577 and leading the Saints so far this season.
Thomas has been absolutely clutch when it comes to Arroyo Seco needing a hit, as this one goes up and high and immediately is brought back down by the catcher Chase Sebi. We saw Sebi have a pretty good game in the opener against Arroyo Seco. Was working pretty well behind home plate. There are runners on first and second with John Thomas up. He shows bunt, brings it back, and ducks out of the way as a fastball goes clipping in. 2 balls and no strikes. And Farizi, for the 3rd straight batter, has started off the guy 2-0.
Yeah, I look at Freezy. Obviously, he's falling behind in counts, but if you're the Saints, I really don't like the fact that you want to have Thomas square on bunt here. This is one of your best hitters in the lineup. I know small ball is a big factor, and you want to get on the board fast, but to have one of your best hitters bunts kind of head-scratching to me.
And immediately he sends a little rocket shot bunt down the third base side. Picking it up was Austin Soika, and he's able to toss over to first in time. Gabe Chavez goes over to third, and up to second goes Drew Cali.
And look, now you have runners on second and third with only one out in the inning. But at the same time, I mean, Thomas, he's batting .577. I mean, this is your best hitter in the lineup for the Saints. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know you want to push cross runs early and fast, but as one of your best hitters in the lineup with nobody out, you kind of want to let him do his thing, have the freedom up there at the plate.
First pitch to the outside half that is delivered to Cooper Williams is a strike. 0-1. And you can see, Steven, I mean, all season long, up to this point, through 10 games, John Thomas, #1 hitter in this Arroyo Seco lineup, and he will watch as this one gets laced into the right center field gap. 1 run will score. Around goes Chavez. Cooper Williams will stop his way over at second, and that is an RBI double for Cooper Williams into right center field. It drives them both across. So for Coach Bueller, the sacrifice does pay off, but now you only wonder, could it have been 3? And it may sound a little greedy,
yeah,
but you just have that thought in the back of your mind.
I mean, with Williams now doubling and scoring both runs, I think it kind of sounds, useless, or it's pointless to kind of talk about the bunt now. But either way, the Saints have 2 runners on the board already, 2 runs on the board. So, I mean, you're only at second, 1 out here, and Nick Lacayo's up. So it's not too much to be complaining about for the Saints so far this inning.
So next delivery, that goes outside. Nick Lacayo out of Michigan State, a senior from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
He only has 10 plate appearances so far in the season, so not a big sample size, but batting .333 so far for the Saints.
Next one is, again, who would have thought, 2-0. 4th straight batter that has seen a 2-0 count. Actually, you can make it 5 with Lacayo.
Yeah, and Freeze's really struggling right now. He has to find a way now going 3-0, so it's kind of a struggle right now. He desperately needs to find a way to get back in the zone here if you're Freezy.
And if you look down that right-hand side, running out towards the bullpen, in right center field is Robbie Evans. So very quickly, OC Riptide and Coach Jason Smith having to figure their way out of a jam. Runner at second is Cooper Williams. It's now 3, make it 4-0. As running up to first on a walk will be Nick Lacayo.
And it's going to go ahead and draw a visit from the pitching coach. And if you're Freezy, this is definitely not the start you want to see. I mean, it sounds like what we've been talking about with Freezy has been kind of been the story of the Saints season so far. But, I mean, if you're the Saints, got to be happy with this. Bases loaded, only one. Runners on first and second, only 1 out. So a big opportunity right now to open this game up in the first inning.
Well, when you talk about that, Steven, this is kind of what we saw from Colin King exactly 1 week ago against Santa Barbara. He couldn't get that first out, and he was having some major troubles through the first 6 batters. And if I remember correctly, for Colin King, out of the first 6 batters that came to the plate, 3 of them came across to score.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, you look, as a pitcher, I mean, you can throw 95 miles an hour, you can have the nastiest curveball there is, but if you can't throw strikes, you're just not going to succeed as a pitcher. It's just a recipe for disaster when you're falling behind in counts and you're going 3-0, 2-1, 3-1. Those kind of counts, I mean, especially when you get to the higher levels, it's just it's just a less margin of error. So if you're the Saints and if you're Freezy right now, you have to get back on the board right now and get things zoned in.
This gets bunted foul. And for those of you watching online, you saw it go right back to the backstop. Kind of knocked our camera off position for a second there. As at the plate is Colin Shepard. Shepard tried to square around on his first time up. He's quickly down 0-1, and now he will even count at 1 ball and 1 strike. Now the thing with Colin Shepard is that since he did square around to bunt on that last pitch, it means that breaks a streak of 5 straight batters coming to the plate and getting down or getting ahead of Freezy 2-0. There's a strike that gets flipped in towards the bottom half, right above the kneecaps, and 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And at the very least right now, if you're Colin Shepard, you want to at least get these runners in scoring position. Move them over. At the very least, what you can do, get a fly ball or something, get those runners in scoring position.
Swing and a miss for Colin Shepard. And he is the first strikeout this afternoon. He goes down swinging, and Jack Smith will be coming up next.
And Ryan, that is not exactly what you want to do to get those runners in scoring position if you're Shepard.
And you had just said it. What he needed to do was get those runners over, and especially when you look at Shepard, they were giving him that right-hand side. There was a lot of gap in between the first baseman and the second baseman for OC Riptide as that one goes up and high and too far. Mason McWhorter was playing tight to the line, and over at second was Steve Curry, and he was playing up the middle. So they were giving him that right-hand side, but he just wasn't able to get a piece of the ball. 1 ball and no strikes. It's 2-0 for Arroyo Seco. And if you're the Arroyo Seco Saints, you feel good having a lead to start off a game. Not just because, well, of course, every team wants to have a lead at any point in a game, but also the way that they've been struggling at the plate, struggling to pitch as well in the last 5. Swing and a miss from Jack Smith. And that makes it 2-0, or make it 2-1.
You're looking at Jack Smith right now at the plate. Hasn't played baseball at Arizona State, but played a little bit of football and looking to play baseball this next season upcoming for the Sun Devils, but has a tremendous amount of speed. I'll tell you that much so far from looking at him play for the Saints so far.
And he swings and fouls this one straight back. Of course, his dad of fame over at Arizona State, just a little bit. His dad is the head coach of Arizona State baseball. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs.
And he roams center field for this Saints team, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of ground out there. I've seen him track down a lot of fly balls. Like I said, the speed is there, so what's the biggest thing they always say is that speed never slumps, and that's a big factor into this baseball lineup.
And when you look at Smith, though, he has been playing football as of recently. You look at his swing, and it is not necessarily, oh, he's the most natural person we've ever seen, but he does have that fluid motion when at the dish. A right-handed batter takes the next pitch and fouls it off towards the right-hand side and continues to battle.
Yeah, and his first game with the Saints was against the San Diego Force, a game that I called on 2 Saturdays ago, and he was a home run shy of the cycle. So that kind of shows you his potential as a player in baseball.
Watches in as Freezy goes into the set, delivers, runners go, and this one gets fouled off the helmet of Jack Smith. So he's going to have to go right back to the plate with a 2 ball and 2 strike count. 2 gone. Nick Lacayo over at first, Cooper Williams at second. They're both leading off here as Jack Smith continues his opportunity at the plate. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Next up, chops that one towards third. Picking it up and easily walking his way over towards the third base bag was Austin Soika. That's going to do it for the inning as Jack Smith ends up grounding out to third unassisted. 2 runs, on no errors, and 2 runners left on base. The score, it's 2-0 Arroyo Seco. This is Arroyo Seco baseball. Welcome back to Arroyo Seco baseball. It's 2-0. The Saints are on top of the OC Riptide early on here. First pitch from Colin King to start off this top half of the second inning. And that gets fouled off to the left-hand side to Jake Prees. Prees will be followed by Mason McWhorter and then Austin Soika. no balls and 1 strike. 2-0 Arroyo Seco. Sent down the third baseline, and it's going to get all the way into the corner. Rounding first and getting over to second in his Prees. He will jog his way into the second base back, as getting to it in left field will be Dalton Ney. And it's a double to start things off for Jake Prees.
Yeah, and if you're the Riptide, I mean, you were down 2-0 in the first inning, but with this lineup, you can't be too afraid of any lead. I mean, no lead is safe when it comes to the OC Riptide, the defending CCL champion, so they have plenty of offense to go around.
So up next is Mason McWhorter, and this is a guy who has considerable power. He's already hit a home run here at Jackie Robinson Field, and he swings through the first pitch. No balls and 1 strike.
Leads Riptide so far with 3 home runs on the season.
Going to the set is Colin King. He's going to take a look over at second, and McWhorter takes a high swinging strike once more. No balls, 2 strikes, nobody gone. Runner at second, 2-0 Arroyo Seco. The orange-clad OC Riptide over towards the right-hand side. And the Arroyo Seco Saints in all white taking the field. Next delivery for McWhorter. He fouls this one off and over towards the Cars Park over our left shoulder. Last week we heard, at least not saw, but heard one of those cars get hit. The alarm went off, and
I actually was there, and I was working the comm booth over there and right next to us, and had to go chase down that ball and saw the ball just shattered inside the windshield of the car. And
really?
Kind of felt bad, but it's part of baseball, I guess.
No balls, 2 strikes. King with a breaking ball, and he fools him. Swing and a miss for Mason McWhorter. He goes down swinging, and Austin Soika is up next.
Yeah, and for Colin King, that's obviously a big striker right there. Then, giving up the leadoff double, bouncing back, and getting that strikeout. It's a huge strikeout. Leave the runner at second base and kind of bounce back right here against Soika.
King to the set. Soika, no batting gloves, batting right-handed. Not something that you see very often anymore. No batting gloves for a baseball player at any level. I mean, since they took over in the late 80s and early 90s, all of a sudden, it has just become, I guess you would say, not tradition, but normal.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like an Evan Gaddis look right now that Soika's carrying. So if it works for him, I guess let it be.
Next up for Soika, there's a sweeping breaking ball that goes just inside for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. A little bit taken off there by Colin King. And King working with 1 out and a runner over at second in Jake Prees. Is trying to go at Austin Soika. Next delivery, and it is a check swing on a beautiful breaking pitch by Colin King, but it will end up being 2 balls and 1 strike. It looked like that one may have made its way back into the zone, but they're not going to give him the call behind home plate, so it's now 2-1. Here's King back to home. It's fouled off.
And you look at Priest over there at second base, kind of dancing around out there, trying to get in Colin King's head, trying to kind of throw him off the rhythm right now, but Colin King right now still a 2-2 count.
Austin Soika. One thing to note about his family line is that he has a lot of athleticism in his immediate siblings. I mean, not to mention the guy himself is playing at Oklahoma Wesleyan, number 4 team in the country. Going on the pitch after strike 3 as it goes down the third base side and into left field. The run is going to cross. That is Jake Prees. It will be an error behind home plate on Nick Lacayo as he delivered high.
And 2 Saturdays ago, Nick Lacayo was catching against the San Diego Force in the same situation. A runner from second base stole third. Lakayo once again threw it into left field and allowed that runner to score. So this is not the first time we've seen Lakayo do that. I think he needs to be a little less lazy, I want to say, when you're throwing over the third. It kind of just hucked it over there without really setting up and making a clean throw. So if you're Lakayo, you kind of want to get that kinks out here in summer ball when summer ball is a chance for these college kids to kind of refine their game and freshen up their skills before they go back for the next school year. So I think it's one of those things, if you're Lakayo, you want to kind of get back in order.
First up for Colin King, that went too high. Next one is in the dirt, and it bounces home. And to your point, Steven, I mean, a lot of these guys come to summer ball with these specific goals in mind that they talk to their coaches during the school year, and they say, okay, coach, what can I improve on? As this one goes 3-0, too far inside as it is delivered to Chase Sebi. They talk to their coaches. They say, hey, what can I improve on? What would you like to see from me in this upcoming fall? And that's what they go and they work on here in summer ball. 3 balls and 1 strike.
Yeah, and I talked to Coach Sean Bueller from the Arroyo Seco Saints, and I've asked him about that in the postgame before. I said, how do you mesh getting their work in and actually kind of compete and win? So, and he talks about you kind of want to do both, but it's kind of tough because you have to get all these guys. You want to get their work in, you want to improve, but at the same time, you also are a competitor and you want to win games. So it's a little bit of a blend, but at the same time, it's summer baseball. You really, it's always a fun time if you're a baseball player.
Jacob Dominguez is up. The Cal State Fullerton guy, just a freshman, redshirted, didn't play for the Titans. And, of course, they made their trip to the College World Series Super Region. It sounded so good, and then it stopped. 1 ball and no strikes.
I know you're a Cal State Fullerton kid, so you were out there calling those games. And
indeed.
It looked like Fullerton, it looked twice they were on their way to head to Omaha, and it just didn't pan out this year. But, it's Cal State Fullerton. There's a reason why they call them Cal State Omaha, and they'll definitely be back in the future.
I mean, at one point, they were just 4 strikes away. The other time, they were 5 strikes away in back-to-back innings. When they initially took the lead off of the Chris Prescott single into right field, it looked, okay, this is going to be the magical day. Then all of a sudden, Washington came back and tied it. Then Hank LaFord homered, something that he has only done twice at Cal State Fullerton in this year. And then Washington came back and tied it. And then after 3 straight errors, Washington walks it off. Cal State Fullerton got into their own heads. And you could actually say they walked themselves out of the Omaha bid. 1 ball and 1 strike as Jacob Dominguez steps back in there. Right-handed batter, very open-sized stance. It goes right to Gabe Chavez. He'll toss right over to first, realizing that he doesn't need a double play. Jacob Dominguez ends up grounding out 4-3, and there's out number 3 as we go to the bottom half of the 2nd inning. 1 run does cross on 1 hit and 1 error that is charged to Nick Lakayo behind home plate. We're going to go to the bottom half of the 2nd. Our score is 2-1. Arroyo Seco with the lead over the OC Riptide. Welcome back to Arroyo Seco Baseball. So we get set for this bottom half of the 2nd inning. It's 2-1 Arroyo Seco. So the Saints get on the board quickly. with 2 runs in the first inning, and then the OC Riptide are able to manufacture one back. First pitch ends up being chopped foul, and while it wasn't a completely broken bat, it looked like there was maybe about, a 1-inch, maybe 2-inch splinter that came off the top of that bat.
Still good enough for Briggs to hold on to it, so.
Cameron Briggs at the plate. Dalton A is behind him, and then we go to the top of the order in Gabe Chavez. And to that point, I mean, you can still go up to the plate with that kind of bat. I mean, it only affects the top part, and you'd rather hit the barrel anyway.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, you don't want to go through too many wood bats in a summer season.
High chopper over to first, trying to beat it out in time is Cameron Briggs, and he cannot do so. As getting over to first in time is the pitcher, Jason Farisi. And he gets the toss over from Mason McCorder, and that will be out number 1 as it goes 3-1 for the putout.
And if you're the Saints right here, you want to get Farisi uncomfortable again. You don't want him to get in a groove, because once he gets in a groove, it's kind of, one of those long days. So you want to keep him uncomfortable, keep him working counts, get his pitch count up, and get runners on base and make him work from the stretch.
Dalton Ney is up next, a 2-ball and 2-strike count. Or excuse me, a 1-ball and no strike count. You can make it 1-1 now. Bottom 2, 2-1, Arroyo Seco. Slightly open for Dalton Ney. He adds the leg kick and sends one into left field for a single.
And I saw him BP today. I knew it was him, and I saw him in BP before the game. He was over there working with the leg kick. And I think it's something he kind of wants to incorporate in his batting stance and his swing. So, I mean, you look at guys like Justin Turner for the Dodgers, He was in New York for the start of his season, start of his career. Didn't have a leg kick. Was an okay hitter. Went to the Dodgers, incorporated that leg kick into his stance and his swing. And all of a sudden he's an all-star and MVP candidate every year for the Dodgers.
To the set goes Farisi. 2-1. Arroyo Seco with the lead. And when you talk about that, Steven, specifically for Justin Turner at Cal State Fullerton, he had a very stiff stance in his first couple of years, had some success, but more moderate.
Mm-hmm.
Then the final 2 years that he was at Cal State Fullerton, let's look at it. College World Series champion, College World Series MVP, goes back to the College World Series in 04, or excuse me, in 05. And why? Because he opened up his stance a little bit more, added a little bit more movement, as the next one is delivered to, and this one gets fouled off to the right to Gabe Chavez, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike. Of course, that little bit of movement was taken away once he got to the big league level, and then it was readjusted, brought back in the form of that leg kick, like you said. But every time that a guy such as Justin Turner, and perhaps even in this case, Dalton Ney, they add that leg kick, it gives them their rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, as far as the hitters, some guys, they don't react well to it. Sometimes it's too much motion for them, and it just kind of messes up their swing. But some guys like Justin Turner, like you mentioned, maybe a Dalton Ney, we'll not have to wait and see on that one. But some guys, it just improves their swing and kind of adds more rhythm and motion into it. You look at Jose Batista, someone whose career was, on the brink of ending, adds a leg kick into his swing, and he hits 55 home runs for the Blue Jays the next following season back in 08. So, I mean, there's certain guys it works for, and there's certain guys it doesn't. But it just depends on the guy in the specific batting stance and who it feels comfortable for and who doesn't.
3 balls and 2 strikes to Chavez as Farisi has a little bit of trouble trying to put away Gabe. Gabe, the right-handed hitter, takes another look. Dalton Ney over at first. Takes a lead off, now leans towards second base, and instead it gets fouled back behind home plate and to the backstop. For 3 balls and 2 strikes, it will remain.
And you look at Chavez, he kind of reminds me of that Jose Altuve, that pesky hitter that you just can't get out. And he seems like that baseball player that they always talk about. Not so much he has 1 or 2 skills that really excel, but just overall just a baseball player and knows how to get things done.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Chavez. Right-hander sees the pitch from the lefty, and it's fouled back once more. So he just stays up there, fighting his way as much as possible.
And that's to show you so much about the Saints coaching staff. I mean, it's his first game with the team, and he's already batting leadoff for them. So it shows you that they have a lot of trust in him. Like I said, I mentioned he played last year for the Saints, so there is a history there, and they know what this guy is capable of when he gets going.
Next up for Chavez, he floats this one into foul ground. McWhorter is underneath it. He'll make the call and try to make the catch, and he will complete that. And the reason why we say try is because it was these very same Riptide that 2 weeks ago, they had a ball into foul territory down the right-hand side that they weren't able to complete the catch on.
Yeah, and you look at the sun right now, especially at this time right now, before the sun really sets, it plays a big factor in the outfield and the first base and third baseman out there. It plays a big factor because it's right in your face, and that's something that you don't want to deal with if you're an outfielder or infielder right now here at Pasadena.
There's a strike to start things off to Drew Cowley. There are 2 outs on the board, and it's 2-1 Arroyo Seco. The OC Riptide currently in the field in the all-orange uniform tops and royal blue caps. Next delivery to Cowley, that goes outside, and Chase Ebby has to backhand it. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 2 gone.
And look, whether or not the Saints push across runs in this inning, they're making for easy work, and that's something that you have to preach as a hitting coach. You want to make that pitcher work, get his pitch count up, get him out of the game, make him go to that bullpen. So, I mean, it's just a good job by the Saints so far.
This will be an HBP in the scorebook as Drew Cowley will move up to first, and down to second goes Dalton Ney. That one rides too far up and in, and it's runners on first and second with none other than John Thomas coming up to the plate. And this time, you don't have to worry about a sacrifice situation.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's been one of the best hitters for the Saints, batting .577 on the season. So definitely the right man up at the right time. And like I mentioned before the game in the pregame show to you, Ryan, 2 outs right here, bottom of the second inning. This is a big opportunity. This is where momentum shifts. If you're able to drive in a run right here with 2 outs, get that 2-out RBI if you're Thomas, this is where momentum shifts over to that Arroyo Seco Saints dugout. On the other hand, if Fariz is able to get out of this jam, momentum stays with the Riptide right here.
John Thomas takes a heavy fastball up and too high. He'll shade away from it, and it's 1 ball and no strikes. The infield slightly back on the right-hand side, but a lot of space in between second and first once again. And this is to a lefty in John Thomas. Thomas sees the next pitch, and that floats in there as a breaking ball, clips that upper part of the plate. Thomas not happy with it, but it's 1 ball, 1 strike with 2 gone.
Thomas from USC. I know you don't really care for that too much, Ryan, being a UCLA fan, and also a Cal State Fullerton fan, but pretty good team, pretty good player for the Saints so far. He's been one of the most productive bats in the lineup for them.
That gets fouled off to the left-hand side. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And in fact, Cal State Fullerton played USC 2 different times during the season. Both times, Cal State Fullerton coming away with a victory. Cal State Fullerton also played that other team here in Southern California, the one in the sky blue and gold. Lost both of those games. 1 ball, 2 strike count. Thomas holds back on a breaking ball to the outside half by Farizi.
And Thomas is one of few, USC guys for the Saints lineup. So, the red and gold kind of run deep here in the Saints. You have Christian Moya, the outfielder for the Saints, also from USC, and Marco Martinez, who has not played a single inning for the USC Trojans yet, but is going to be joining them next year as he'll be a freshman going in.
Left-handed batting John Thomas at the dish with runners on first and second. Next up, he's going to stay away from a breaking ball outside once more. That one was close, but it's now 3 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. A full count. Runners will be taking off as soon as the ball is let go. So Farizi with it. He comes to the set. Lefty looks to toss, and John Thomas fouls it off down the right-hand side and well into out-of-play territory. 3 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. 2-1 lead for Arroyo Seco with the OC Riptide trying to get out of the inning.
And either way you look at it right now for the Riptide, for the Saints, this has been, a pretty productive inning because you're making Farizi work, like I said. Already a full count. This is not the first full count of the game for Farizi, so a lot of full counts, making that pitch count rise, and if you're Thomas right now, if you're able to knock a hit right here, it's going to go ahead and give that momentum to the Saints.
And Thomas takes too far inside, and it will be ball 4. So the bases are loaded with Cooper Williams coming up. We already know that Cooper has the ability to send one to the furthest reaches of this ballpark, as the last time he was up, he sent a double into the right center field gap, which allowed it to be 2-0 Arroyo Seco at the time. So Drew Kelly moves up to second, John Thomas to first on the walk, and Cooper Williams up next. The lefty on lefty matchup once more. There's a fastball to the outside half, and Williams not happy with himself for not chasing it.
And look, if Williams right now is able to drive in maybe 1 or 2 runs here, it might be only a 4-1 lead, but it's going to feel like a 10-1 lead right now for the Saints. So this is a big at-bat right now early in the ballgame for the Saints.
Parisi goes into the line, and that goes too high. Getting caught leaning down at third will be the runner, Dalton Ney. So he takes a couple more steps down the home plate line, third base to home plate line, and he ends up getting picked from behind by Chase Ebby. Third time we've seen him do that here at Jackie Robinson Field early on in this season. That's going to end this bottom half of the second inning with no runs coming across on 1 hit, no errors, and 3 runners left on base. Actually make it 2 since he got picked off. Our score is 2-1 in favor of Arroyo Seco.
Now batting the designated hitter, number 14 from Pacific, Bradley Jekic.
And we welcome you back to Jackie Robinson Field, where the Arroyo Seco Saints are up 2-1 over the OC Riptide. Ryan Osborne joined by Stephen Baltiera. Over to my right-hand side from beautiful Brookside Park. Perfect setting for baseball this afternoon as Colin King delivers an outside corner strike to Bradley Jekic.
You know, after that last inning, bases loaded, 2 outs, your Cooper Williams, one of the cleanup hitter for the Saints, drove in 2 runs in the bottom of the first inning, and you get picked off at third base. And you're mentioning, Ryan, if that happens in any other lineup, you're out of the game right away. And you know, obviously it's summer ball, but it just can't happen if you're the Saints right there. It's obviously a big moment in the game, and you know, it kind of just plays into why they're 2-7 so far. Things like that, just mental errors cannot happen.
First batter that comes up is Jekic, and he ends up popping out too short. And there's one gone. And actually, when you talk about that, those mental errors, they come back to haunt you. It may not be now. It may not be even in this game. But later on, it comes back to haunt you, whether it be in your career or later on. It could even be coaching-wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but at the same time, it's just you look at, coaches, if a team goes out there and they're just a better team that day, coaches are going to be fine with that loss. But when you beat yourself, those are just things that cannot happen. Those are things that keep coaches up all night because you should have won a game. And if you're going out there and you're giving up errors and you're doing mental errors like that, and it's just, you beat yourself. And those are things that you just don't want to see at your team because you know you're the better team on that day.
And also part of the reason why I say it comes back to haunt you, I remember watching a Fullerton College baseball game. Guy gets picked off at third. Same situation. Bases loaded as this one goes too far up and in to Aaron Simpson. Guy gets picked off at third. All of a sudden, not in the same game. It's a playoff series against Cypress. Next game that comes across, it's the deciding game. Winner takes all. They move on. Loser goes home as that one goes outside. Same situation once again. Bases loaded. Same guy at third. Next day. And he was shy about moving away from the bag. Ball gets away from the catcher as this is chopped down towards short. Picking it up and tossing all the way across, but not in time as it gets away. Aaron Simpson is going to move up to second base on the error. That is committed by Drew Cowley at short.
And look, we're talking about errors right now. We just, you see one right there. And obviously, it's a tough play right there if you're Cali at shortstop. But at the same time, the throwing error allows Simpson to move up to second base. And those now puts a runner in a scoring position with one out. And these little things, they just, they culminate and they keep adding up. When they culminate, and it happens, and then it leads to a loss. So, you have to be able to cut down on these errors and these mental things. They might not seem like much right now, like that error you saw, but it adds up at the end of the game.
Colin King's next delivery, it gets popped a mile into the air. Behind second base, Gabe Chavez is able to make the catch in very shallow center field. And Luke Bandy will end up going back to the dugout after he pops out to second. There is out number 2, and Steve Curry is up next. But earlier I was talking about that guy, gets picked off over at third. Well, ball gets away from the catcher, goes all the way to the backstop. He wasn't sure whether to take off or not because he didn't have the most clear view. And it cost his team the game because both runners came across behind him. And with 2 outs, he was tagged out. Those mental errors may not cost you now, but it may cost you later down the road because you become maybe a little bit more conservative on the base paths. You start second-guessing yourself. A little bit of doubt creeps in, as it's no balls and 1 strike to Steve Curry. And Colin King wants to make sure that Aaron Simpson stays close at second.
Yeah, they always say there's one of my favorite baseball. One of my coach told me in college, there's a thin line between aggressiveness and stupidity, and you have to be able to balance that. You have to be able to be aggressive, but don't be too ridiculous and don't be too careless out on the bases or whatever you're doing in baseball. And you have to be able to balance that and make sure that you're not doing something that puts the team's objective of winning in danger.
2 balls, or actually no balls, and 2 strikes. 2-1 Arroyo Seco. This bounces home. Colin King trying to waste a pitch there. He's already up 0-2, so he has that opportunity. But you talk about that, Steven, and a lot of people don't realize that baseball players go through these very minuscule, overthought decisions at very high rates as it's chopped down to deep short. Picking it up is Shepard across the diamond. The stretch is in time. Beautiful pick and toss by Colin Shepard at short. He will toss it across in time. That'll do it for the inning as it is recorded as a 6-3 grounder to bring us to the bottom of the third. To bottom 3 we go. It's a 2-1 lead for Arroyo Seco.
Zach Bromstead.
Welcome back to Arroyo Seco Baseball as we get set for the bottom half of the third inning. Up to the plate will be Cooper Williams, Nick Lacayo, and Colin Shepard. At the end of the last inning, I said that it was Colin Shepard who had made the play from deep short. In fact, it was Drew Cowley who had made the toss. So Cooper Williams is up, and then Nick Lacayo will be in right after him. Stephen Baltier and I having a little conversation off the air about our respective community colleges. And the reason why is because there's a new pitcher on the mound. It is Zach Bromstead out of Mount Sac. So a Mountie on the mound, and he delivers his first pitch for a strike to Cooper Williams, 0-1. But Williams sends this one into center field.
So Williams so far this season, seeing the ball pretty good so far this game. You know, has a double and single so far in his first two at-bats. And like you mentioned, Zach Bromstead, new pitcher on the mound for the Riptide. 2.98 ERA for the Mounties so far last season in 22 appearances. Had a 4-2 record for them.
Out of that smaller school in Walnut.
That's smaller school. One of the biggest JCs in California, in fact. One of the best athletic schools in the junior college ranks.
I'll give him credit. Have you seen the new plans that they have for that football stadium? As Cooper Williams moves up to second. So that ball gets halfway, maybe 2/3 up the line towards third and away from Chase Sebi. So earlier we talked about how he had a pretty good game the last time around that he came to Jackie Robinson Field. Already picked a runner off in the last inning. Then all of a sudden he lets that one get away and roll down the third base line to allow Cooper Williams up to second. 1 ball, no strikes. But yeah, that football stadium at Mount Sac, that one and the proposed one over at Saddleback, they're both going to be impressive. This gets fouled off to the right-hand side.
Like I mentioned, Bromstead, kind of a local kid, went to South Hills High School in West Covina, so been around the San Gabriel Valley. You know, obviously Pasadena located inside the San Gabriel Valley, so a local kid around here. Played under head coach for the Mounties, John Knott, and I went there a few years ago, and when I say a few years ago, I mean years ago, before Coach John Knott was there. I mean, the head coach was Stacy Parker, and then it went to former South Hills head coach and Kevin Smith, and then my last year playing baseball at Mount Sac was his last year coaching there, and then John Knott came in, and John Knott's done a pretty good job with the Mounties baseball program. You know, led them to the state championship this year. Obviously did not win it, but the Mount Sac baseball program on the rise so far.
Chopped over towards deep short, and it gets away from the third base person, Austin Soika. So Soika lets it go. It gets down to the shortstop in Jacob Dominguez, and Dominguez has to toss it back to Zach Bromstead, and an error over at third will make it first and third with nobody out.
And right now, I mean, this is a prime spot for the Saints. I mean, I know, like we mentioned, you know, they blew an opportunity last inning, but the beautiful thing about baseball is you get chances on chances, so it's about what you do with them on a regular basis right now. And if they want to really get a W and extend this lead and get the momentum, they need to score some runs right here, right now.
1 ball and no strikes as that goes too high, up and in to Colin Shepard. You talk about that Mountie baseball program. Sure, it's still on the rise. I mean, you know the football program, national championship, state championship in 2014. 2 balls and 1 strike. This one goes too far back, and wouldn't you know it, Chase Sebi has a second guy picked off at third.
And, you know, I mean, like I mentioned again, it just can't happen right there. You can't. I mean, you have Cooper Williams, who's not known for his speed at third base, and you just can't allow that to happen if you're the Saints. I mean, that just has to eat at you. I know this is summer ball, and I know you want to get your work, but at the same time, you just can't have that. That's just not good baseball. It's not quality baseball. And, right now you see it pop up. So it went from an inning that's promising to an inning that's almost squandered now.
Gets caught over at second base, so Colin Shepard will pop his way out. And very quickly, what looked like such a promising inning for Arroyo Seco. Runners on first and third, nobody out. And now all of a sudden the chances are gone. And you have Lacayo over at first and Jack Smith up next.
And just like I said, just bad. I mean, you can't find new ways to lose if you're the Saints. You have to find a way out of this funk and not just shoot yourself in the foot on a constant basis if you're the Saints.
Taking a big hack right over top of the ball is Jack Smith, and he's down no balls and 1 strike. So the mental errors so far for Arroyo Seco have been the storyline in this one. And yes, it's still early in the game as this ball gets away from Chase Sebi, and he was thinking about tossing over towards Nick Lacayo over at first, but those mental errors really digging in at Arroyo Seco. Though they have that 1-run lead, they need to shore those things up, especially if you're facing the defending CCL champions. This is bunted by Jack Smith, who has a lot of running power, but he ends up popping it foul behind home plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
You know, as we were talking about that Mount Sac, you know, how they're kind of known for the football team is kind of more notorious than the baseball program. My first year there was the first year we won the South Coast Conference, and that was the first year we won it in 45 years. So that baseball program has kind of been, you know, down in the dumps for a while. It's starting to make its way up there. So, I mean, it's beautiful. If you look at the stadium, it's one of the best, you know, junior college stadiums in all of college baseball. But as Smith strikes out here, I mean, you look into the Saints inning going squandered.
So that's going to do it for this third. It ends up being no runs on 1 hit, 1 error, and 1 runner left on base. Let's go to the top half of the 4th inning after we take a quick break. It's 2-1, Arroyo Seco leads.
Now batting for the OC Riptide, the right fielder, number 23 out of UCLA, Jake Freeze.
Welcome back to Arroyo Seco Baseball. Jake Prees out of that school with the 115 national championships across all of their athletic programs. Prees out of UCLA. He will be coming up to the dish. Last time up, he had a double and came across to score on an error that was charged to Nick Lacayo behind home plate. 2-1, Arroyo Seco leads it, and it's a no ball and 1 strike count as Colin King reprises his role on the mound. King has been fairly efficient through 2 and yet to be 1/3.
And like you mentioned, that Preece goes to that school with 115 championships. They play their football games right behind us here at the historic Rose Bowl. As you were mentioning in the pregame, that you've never attended a Rose Bowl or UCLA football game at the Rose Bowl, which is astonishing to me.
I have not. I have been to various concerts at the Rose Bowl. I have seen junior football being played at the Rose Bowl. I have seen UCLA play at the Coliseum. I have seen them play in different places across this western half. As Colin King delivers, and this is rocketed down the third base line, but just into foul ground.
I'll tell you what, I mean, watching a football game at the Rose Bowl, I mean, there's only a few sightings in sports, sports venues as far as they go. I mean, Dodger Stadium, watching the Dodger game, you have Yankee Stadium, obviously, Fenway Park. I mean, the Rose Bowl's up there as far as sports venues and watching football games. There's nothing really like it. I mean, all the history that goes behind the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. So that's definitely something to take in.
Smack towards left, but getting underneath it and making the play easily in left field will be Dalton Ney, so he makes the catch. It's a fly out to left And one is gone with Mason McWhorter up next.
And looking at Colin King right now, I mean, he's kind of getting in the groove right now. I mean, he seems like he's comfortable with this OC Riptide lineup. Like I said, in his last outing, the first game of the season, through 4 innings, only giving up 1 run, and it's kind of on that way right now. So, Colin King in a groove.
Next up from King, just like you said, he powers it right past McWhorter. And you talk about the historical meaning for the Rose Bowl behind us. A week ago, with Anthony, I went over the historical meaning around the park itself, this being Brookside
Yeah,
Park.
Jackie Robinson Field.
And you go to the Rose Bowl. I mean, you look at multiple Super Bowls being played there.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the national championship in football being played there multiple times, specifically 2005.
That one had to bring a grin to your face.
No balls and 2 strikes with 1 gone. As Colin King goes into his delivery. Brings up his leg and fires. That goes too far outside. But then you look at also the World Cup was played there in 1994. So many different events that have taken place just a few hundred feet behind us. This one is blasted towards center field. Jack Smith on the run, and he is able to make the catch. It's a towering shot into center field. In other parks, that's an easy fly. But here at Jackie Robinson with a 364 into straightaway center, it got its way to the warning track, and that will be out number 2 on the fly out into dead center field.
And you look at the power right there of McWhorter right there. I mean, that ball looked like you said, a routine fly ball off the bat, but it's just able to drift out there and with the short porch in center field, which you really don't see in many baseball parks across the country. I mean, it's kind of a pitcher's nightmare if you ask me.
Austin Soika up next. And earlier I mentioned that he has pretty good bloodline when it comes to baseball and softball. You look at his brother also playing, but most importantly, his sister currently playing in the NCAA, playing softball. She is one of the starters for the University of Hawaii, the Rainbow Wahine. And in fact, not only is she pretty good over at the University of Hawaii, she was one of the better community college softball players I had ever seen while she was at Santiago Canyon Community College. Santiago Canyon, they had their 2016 national championship, or state championship, I guess, in softball. But Colin King says, I see you, Austin. And you know what? You can take that national state title talk back to the dugout. Soika will strike out, and that'll do it for this top half of the 4th. We go to the bottom half, and it's 2-1 Arroyo Seco on top of the OC Riptide. Welcome back to Arroyo Seco Baseball. And we thank all of you who have joined us. Maybe you're watching closely as the Arroyo Seco Saints are beating the OC Riptide to the moment at 2-1 going into the bottom of the fourth. Or maybe you turned on the stream, you're listening to us live, and you're doing maybe some chores around the house. Maybe you're running an errand and you're listening to it on your mobile device. Well, we thank you for joining us and watching and listening along as Arroyo Seco has that 2-1 lead over the OC Riptide. It's no balls and 1 strike. A new pitcher is on the mound for the OC Riptide, and it is a guy out of Claremont, Jack Noble. He is out of Oregon. Initially from Claremont, committed to Oregon, and just finished off his first year at the University of Oregon. Did not play, as far as we know. And for Noble, he has a chance to come in here. If you're an OC Riptide fan watching this, you're thinking, okay, hopefully he has a chance to come in there and stop things and hopefully get the win for the OC Riptide. If you're an Arroyo Seco fan, you're thinking just quite the opposite. You're hoping that the floodgates will open and that the first man up here in this bottom half of the fourth, Cameron Briggs, will be able to get on base and move himself across. 2 balls or no balls and 2 strikes, 2-1 Arroyo Seco. And Briggs smacks this one foul right-hand side once again.
And looking at Noble so far right now, the one thing I can see right away is his velocity is up there, and he's establishing that fastball, and you can see it, it's a pretty good firm fastball, so these Saints bats have to get on it real quick.
Coach Jason Smith, right-hand side, watching on as Noble delivers a breaking ball. It's a looper into shallow left field and staying up long enough for the catch to be made in left field by, looks like, Jake Prees in left. Or excuse me, Aaron Simpson. Thank you there, Steven.
No problem. Always got you, man.
Sometimes these old eyes, they just don't see as well as they used to.
And it's pretty tough here, too, because that left field line is kind of far, so it's tough to really see who's out there.
1 ball and no strikes, so a fly out into left is already out number 1. And I will not say that this game has a brisk pace about it, because every time I have done so, it has come back to bite everyone involved. 1 ball and no strikes. And pretty much every time any baseball announcer or sports broadcaster has said, oh, this game is just moving along, as this one is popped up right behind third base. Walking over to it is Soika, and he will make the catch. A pop out to third is out number 2. But pretty much any sportscaster who has ever said that during a baseball game, immediately the game goes into extras. Maybe it turns in from a 1-0 game into a 10-9 game or 10-7 game like we saw 2 weeks ago, or last week, excuse me. 2-1 as Gabe Chavez takes the first pitch, a bouncer from Noble. And it lands over towards that left-hand side and near the dugout. And
you look at Major League Baseball, and, for example, they're trying to do things, implement different strategies to kind of speed up the game, the pace of play. But I think overall in baseball is baseball. As Gabe Chavez looks like he cracked his bat there.
It is indeed a cracked bat as Chavez gets thrown out over at first. And that will be a 4-3 grounder to end the inning. 3 are gone. It's a 1-2-3 inning for the OC Riptide for the first time this afternoon. We're going to go to the top of the 5th inning with the OC Riptide bringing up Chase Sebi, Jacob Dominguez, and Bradley Yekic. This is Arroyo Seco Baseball, and they are up 2-1. Arroyo Seco baseball is on the air right now. Ryan Osborne joined by Stephen Baltiera. 2-1 lead for the Arroyo Seco Saints. It is their 15th year of operation. 15th anniversary for Arroyo Seco. Their uniforms have possibly never looked better. Their team is trying to get back on track. Last year they had an absolute stunner of a season for most people, as this is charged into left field. And it goes about 15 feet foul. Missing on a home run was Chase Sebi, as that had the distance to get out there in the left-hand corner. But it ended up going foul. Colin King goes into the wind, and Sebi will watch as it goes all the way to the backstop.
As you mentioned, the 15th season so far for the Saints. You see the little logo right there at the top left corner of the screen. It's a nice little logo considering, Crown City Baseball with the crown on top. Pasadena.
Sent into center field, right behind the hill, immediately following that second base bag. And Jacob Dominguez is going to come up next as Chase Sebi delivers with a single. Jacob Dominguez coming up next.
And as you mentioned, that little hill right there behind second base. I was calling the game last week against the Foresters, and I was talking to our GM of the team, Tom Stafford, talking about this field, how there's been a lot of renovations to it. It's been used by about 7 teams at one time as far as high school and college teams, and the bad hops and the different holes and things across this field have kind of caused trouble for infielders and outfielders. And he even coined it that the Pasadena teams around here called it the Brookside hop, as far as different things, bad hops in the infield and stuff like that. So they've worked really tirelessly to get this field back in order and make this kind of a quality field for college play and teams going forward.
2-1, Arroyo Seco. They have the advantage over the OC Riptide. And you talk about it, I mean, a lot of people just say, oh, okay, when they go to different major league ballparks, or whether it be a minor league ballpark, maybe a college game, as this one is bunted foul by Dominguez and right to the backstop. A lot of people just say, oh, okay, it's just field maintenance. All you got to do is drag the infield, water the grass on occasion, and you're set to go. No, there is a science behind it. I mean, you just look at the guy who maintains the field for Arroyo Seco, Gotti, down that third base line. I mean, this is a guy who is going through studies, trying to get his master's degree, in addition to also keeping up this field, helping make sure that it's not only safe but playable for these different college athletes, as this is down to Chavez. Chavez will take it. He'll flip it on to Kelly. Kelly on to first, and Cooper Williams will make the catch. It is a 4-6-3 double play.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Andrew Gotti, he's kind of one of the guys. I mean, I get here at 2:30, which is fairly early for a 6 p.m. game, and he's always here before me. It looks like he's in a full sweat working on this field. So, I mean, he's here before anybody, and he's putting tirelessly work into this field and trying to get it ready for this. So that has to be a lot of appreciation going around for Gotti out here.
Well, I mean, the last time that I ended up talking to him, and that was after the game 1 week ago, and they brought over the bullpen cart, or the field cart, I guess you would say, over towards the left-hand side as Colin King delivers the next one to Bradley Yekic, and it's a swing and a miss for 0-2. He brought over the cart to help us load stuff up and put it all away and make sure that the interns were helped out a little bit. And in the back of the cart were some bags, and we say, hey, Gotti, what's in the bags? And he said, well, it's nutrients for the field. And we said, oh, okay, cool. So you just go out there, you sprinkle it, you're good to go. He said, no. It's not that simple. You can only take a certain amount of these nutrients and put it on the grass. If you put too much, it dies. You put too little, and it starts to brown its way away. And all of a sudden, the field surface becomes unplayable. it's a science that these guys have to go through. You have to have the right amount of dirt. It has to be set in the correct way. It has to be, the mound has to be compact. It has to be to regulation. It's not just as simple as people would make it out to be. So this is fouled down that left-hand side and into the foul ground will chase Colin Shepard. So he will make the catch. That's going to end the inning. It's 1-2-3 technically for the Arroyo Seco Saints. As we go to the bottom of the fifth, it's still 2-1 Arroyo Seco with the lead.
For the Arroyo Seco Saints shortstop.
Welcome you back to the place where we just have too much fun watching baseball, taking it in. Beautiful atmosphere here at Brookside Park, and the intern staff is more than acquainted at this point. We're all good with, or not to say that we weren't good with one another, but at this point in the season, I mean, we're already 10 games in, and this first pitch is well and inside. That is delivered by Corey Dawson, who just entered the game for the OC Riptide. But this one goes high up and in to Drew Cowley.
We got to let the viewers in our mid-inning talks a little bit. It's a little bit funny.
As Dawson, the lefty, ends up bringing a curve that goes just inside for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. And I mean, this is the type of, I guess you would say, family/friend atmosphere that the Arroyo Seco program likes to promote. As this one is smacked into center field. It's got a charge on it. Going back all the way to the track to make the catch will be Luke Bandy. But Bandy had himself a ways to run to try and get to that ball and finally got to it, maybe 5 feet before the wall.
Yeah, looking at that one, a lot of warning track power so far in this ball game on both sides, the OC Riptide and the Arroyo Seco Saints. So still a pretty manageable game, 2-1. Not too crazy out here, but a lot of power being displayed so far in this ball game.
Lefty tossing as Dawson finds a no ball and 1 strike count. 2-1 lead for Arroyo Seco. And to the plate is John Thomas. And he sends this one towards short. Picking it up is Dominguez. He'll side sling it over to first. Is it in time? It is indeed. A 6-3 grounder, something you don't always say with John Thomas over the last 10 games. And now Cooper Williams will step up as he is currently 2 for 3.
Yeah, I want to kind of go back to, like we were talking about, Jackie Robinson Field and this park and what's kind of gone through to kind of renovate it. There's not too much you can do to so far the stands and all that. I mean, the stone facade is kind of a historical landmark now, so the field, the city can't really touch that and do too much to it, but overall it's a pretty good field and a pretty good atmosphere.
Hit deep to left by Williams. It's going to get all the way to the wall. He's trucking around first. He'll make his way to second, and Cooper Williams is making his bid for player of the game for Arroyo Seco. He's got 2 doubles, a single, and also a couple of RBI.
I mean, it's just one of those days for Cooper Williams. He's just seeing the ball real well. I mean, this is 3 different pitchers he has a hit off now. So, I mean, this is not one pitcher he's just seeing well. This is 3 different pitchers that have came in this game, and he's seeing every single pitch well. So, just a good day at the plate right now for Williams.
So Nick Lacayo is up next, and he will take that one away. Cooper Williams can charge down to third as it goes all the way to the backstop for Lacayo. Cooper Williams takes a look down at third, and you got to think that in Cooper Williams' mind right now is that pickoff from earlier. So he's going to be hugging the third base bag.
And you saw him dance around third right there as the ball went past the catcher. And if I'm a third base coach, I'm like, hey, let's stay on the base this time. Huh? Let's not run ourselves out of an inning. So, like I mentioned, 2 out RBIs are big situations, and Nick Lacayo right now is a big situation for him.
And he takes a fastball that goes underneath the knees for 2 balls and no strikes. Still a 1-run lead for Arroyo Seco. You can see Jackie Robinson Field in all of its glory if you're watching on the live stream, because that one goes just a shade low at 3-0.
One thing they did add to this field is the netting behind the outfield fence going from left center all the way to right field. That's something that wasn't here in the past when I played here, but they have recently added that to kind of keep balls from traveling out of the ballpark and keeping them in here.
Lacayo takes a strike at 3-1. And you also have to think about what's in the outfield. You look at beyond the right field fence, you're looking at Kid Space, which is a kid-friendly type program, jungle gym, outdoor theme type of thing.
Aquatic center out there, too.
Lacayo swings and misses. Ball gets away for a second. And then down that left field line, it's more storage area, so you're not going to, I guess, not say you're not going to protect it, but there's not as many, kids running around, and there's not as many windows that could possibly be broken. So that netting is pretty valuable when you have those home run distance balls that are hit towards right field and center. But Nick Lacayo won't be able to try and find where that netting is as he goes swinging and missing to end the inning. It ends up being no runs on 1 hit, no errors, and 1 runner left on base. We're going to go to the top of the 6th inning. It's 2-1 Arroyo Seco. And when we come back, we'll have the new pitcher on the mound for the Saints.
Arroyo Seco Saints now in the game out of Temple College, number 37, Jesse Reed. Now batting for the OC Riptide, number 22.
OC Riptide are coming up to the plate here on Arroyo Seco Baseball Night. Pretty much every night is Arroyo Seco Baseball Night in the CCL. 15 years of Arroyo Seco baseball. There's no better way for you to spend your night than watching the Arroyo Seco Saints in Pasadena, as this is sent into center field for a single to start things off.
Yeah, and, like you mentioned, every night's pretty much been Arroyo Seco baseball, for at least for the next month and a half. We'll see if they make the playoffs, and we'll see how that works out for the Saints. But nonetheless, a beautiful night here at Jackie Robinson Field in Pasadena, California. just feels like a baseball setting over here. You know, the seating behind us. Obviously, there's not a lot of shade, but you know, a cool night like right now, it just seems like, you know, a really relaxing place to watch some baseball.
This bounces home to Luke Bandy. Bandy, 1 ball and no strikes. He had to track down a ball to the deepest part of center field a couple of minutes ago. And is it just my figment of my imagination? But in center field, Bandy flies this one towards right field on to make the catch, and calling everyone else off is Cameron Briggs, and he will make the catch. So staying over at first will be Simpson. Steve Curry up next. But in center field, the flagpole is in play.
Yeah, that is something that I've noticed, and it's kind of odd, but it reminds me of the Houston Astros. I don't know if you remember that hill they had in center field.
Tal's Hill.
Yeah, the Tal's, and the flagpole, like you mentioned, the pole was in the middle of play. And it's just, I don't know if the architect kind of messed up there and botched that, or if it's just how they want it to be. But it just doesn't seem like it's a necessary thing to have in a baseball field.
It was something that was eerily similar of the old Yankee Stadium, where you look in center field and you had that flagpole that was in play for a long time, until finally someone decided, you know what, we've had enough. As this one is sent down the third base side on a run and hit that was executed by the OC Riptide, they'll have to run it all the way back as Aaron Simpson will watch a foul ball. But I think that's the type of thing that they were going for in Houston. They kind of wanted to mimic something that, you know, a pretty, I guess we'll say, somewhat successful franchise in New York had.
Yeah. Makes sense. But overall, Minute Maid Park is a very weird park as far as dimensions go around that field. I mean, just it's far. Straight center field is absolutely far, and then you go down the corners, left and right field, and it's a porch. So it's a very, just as far as dimensions go, it's kind of similar to this park, I guess you can say, because the dimensions of this park are very odd as well. So maybe it's just something that they want or don't have a really need to take out.
2-1. Toss over to first. It is not in time, as getting back just a shade before the throw is Aaron Simpson. And to be honest, I actually missed Tal's Hill. I mean,
yeah, I do.
It gave that park character.
It did.
It made it different from every other park in the American League. I guess National League at that time. So that one is sent outside.
One of my fondest memories of that hill was when Eric Gagne was with the Dodgers, and he had his save streak on the line. And this is how far back this days. This is how kind of old I guess I am. Dave Roberts was the center fielder for the Dodgers at the time. The manager now as,
This ball gets tossed over to first. It goes off the helmet of Aaron Simpson. He's shaking it off. He tells his coach, yeah, I think I'm good. And he steps right back on the bag. Cooper Williams checks in on him and gets the sign that everyone's ready to go, and Jesse Reed will toss once more.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary play over. That's why I kind of took a second to pause, because anything with the helmet, you kind of want to take a second to pause. You don't know exactly what's going on, but Simpson looks to shake that one off. But as I was talking about, Eric Gagne had a save streak, 83 consecutive saves in the middle of that, and he was on the verge of blowing it. And Dave Roberts in center field tracks down a ball from Lance Berkman.
This is a toss down to second. It's not going to be in time. And it doesn't matter anyways, because it's ball 4 that is delivered to Steve Curry. So Curry moves up to first. Up to second goes Aaron Simpson, and Jake Freese is up next.
And as I was mentioning, Lance Berkman absolutely drives the ball to deep center field about 415 feet away. And Dave Roberts climbs the hill and robs a home run on top of the hill, which is one of the craziest plays I've seen to kind of preserve Eric Gagne's save streak, which is, I have to say, one of the most unbeatable save streaks. I don't know if you ever witnessed it, growing up.
If I'm not mistaken, 2003?
2003 was when it was, exactly. There's over actually 2 seasons that it happened for Eric Gagne, and it's just, it was one of those things that was crazy, and that's kind of my fondest memory of Tal's Hill over there at Houston and Minute Maid Park. But, overall, just that kind of dates me a little bit, but just one of those random memories I have of that park.
Smack down the third base side, as immediately stepping up quickly is Jake Freese, and he sends it foul left hand. 2-1. Arroyo Seco trying to protect a 1-run lead, but now there are runners on first and second for the OC Riptide. No balls and 1 strike with 1 gone. On the mound is Jesse Reed. He takes over for Colin King. Next delivery, that goes well outside. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 1 gone. But you love to see those parks that have that little bit of character. I mean, personally, coming from Cal State Fullerton, I would have loved to see Goodwin Field be in its more original state, I guess you could say. Though in its current formation, it technically is in its original state. See, it's a funny situation because at Cal State Fullerton, if you've ever been to that ballpark, the way that it's situated, home plate sits away from where the sun is. So all the fielders on the left-hand side of the infield are staring directly into the sun if the sun's overhead. It used to be directly the opposite, as this is a diving stop by Shepard. He's going to pick it up, toss to first. It's not going to be in time. Williams will pick it and keep it in front of him, but an absolute beautiful play from Colin Shepard stops 2 runs from coming across. Bases are loaded for the OC Riptide, but it could have been a lot worse.
I mean, you look at that play, obviously, his base is loaded now with only 1 out, but Colin Shepard with a big stop there at the third base. Like you said, he might have preserved this lead right now for the Saints. I mean, so far the Saints have played a pretty good ball game, except for those 2 errors, those 2 mental errors at the third base getting picked off. But it's a 2-1 ball game right now, and if Jesse Reed's able to get a ground ball double play right now, that's going to be a big play right there for Shepard if it's a ground ball double play and able to get out of this jam.
2-1 lead. No balls, 1 strike, 1 gone. Over at first is Williams. He's playing in front of the runner. And Prees. Prees right behind him and watches on as McWhorter just cannot find the touch this afternoon against Arroyo Seco pitchers.
And right now, I mean, you're 0-2 in the count. You do not want to throw anything close to the zone. You need a big strikeout right here. You need a swing and miss. And right now, I mean, 0-2, you're way ahead. You have to get this ball out of the zone right now.
Next delivery, strike 3 call. Mason McWhorter goes down for the 3rd straight time. He's got 2 strikeouts this afternoon. The power bat is silenced once again, and Austin Soika comes up with 2 outs. And if the Arroyo Seco Saints are able to escape this top half of the 6th inning without giving up a run, not only is it a victory in this inning, but it gives them a lot of momentum going forward.
So once again, do not listen to me because that was in the strike zone and he struck him out, McWhorter.
Ball gets away from Lacayo, who does an excellent job of keeping it in front of him. He went with that ball, though it bounced towards that right-hand side. He kept it in front and kept the runners at bay. Bases are loaded with 2 outs, 1 ball, and no strikes. It's a 2-1 lead for Arroyo Seco. They're trying to hang on here in the top of the 6th. Jesse Reed, the next delivery, it's bounced over to short. It's going to be picked up and muffed over towards that third base side by Drew Cowley. The run is going to cross, and on an error that will be charged to Drew Cowley, it's now a 2-2 tie. It could have gotten them out of the inning. However, Drew Cowley is not able to complete the throw.
And if you're Jesse Reed, that has to be such a deflating feeling. You get the big strikeout right there with 1 out, and you're just moments away from escaping this jam. And like I mentioned, those errors that just pile up if you're the Saints, you just can't have it. Now it's a tie ball game here, and there's a lot of ball game left, obviously, to get ahead again. But those are unearned runs, and those are things you just don't want to see if you're the Saints. And right now, I mean, if you're Chase Sebi, I mean, you hit a ball in the gap, you open this ball game up for the Riptide, and that's a big momentum shift right there if that happens.
Bases remain loaded. 1 swing of the bat, and they can go up 4. Jace Reed trying to prevent that. It gets away from Lacayo, and he finds it right underneath them and looks the runner back to third. Runners that are currently on, Austin Soika over at first. Down at second is Jake Prees, and down at third is Steve Curry.
And just looking at this moment right now, I mean, as a pitcher, this can really mess with your mentality. I mean, you can't let that air affect you. And going forward, if you let that air affect you, this can definitely trickle into this at-bat.
Beautiful pick by Cooper Williams over at first to keep another error away from Lacayo.
I mean, right now, 2-0. I mean, so if you're a Reed right now, I mean, you're falling behind, bases loaded right now, 2 outs. I mean, you have to get a strike in there if you're a Reed.
Here's Reed looking for that strike, but he just can't find the zone, and it's 2-1. Chase Sebi has a chance to not only give his team the lead, but to also extend an opportunity for the OC Riptide to break this game open. Next up for Reed, it's bounced towards third and into foul ground, into the Arroyo Seco dugout. You can feel that this is a tipping point for this game. And perhaps maybe even the Arroyo Seco season. I mean, you're 10 games in. You're playing around 40 games overall. That means you're 1/4 the way through the season and currently at 2-7. Arroyo Seco needs any momentum possible. Next delivery, it gets popped up. Chase Sebi watches it a mile into the air. Chavez underneath it. He'll make a one-handed catch, and that will do it for the inning. It's a fly out over to deep second base, and that will make it a 2-2 game. 1 run on 2 hits, 1 error, and 3 runners left on base. It is 2-2, a tie between the OC Riptide and the Arroyo Seco Saints. Arroyo Seco 2, the OC Riptide 2. As we get set once again for some more baseball from Pasadena. And if you ever have the time or you're close enough to Pasadena, make sure that you make your way out to an Arroyo Seco baseball game. There are a lot of games coming up for the Arroyo Seco Saints. Please check the schedule on the website. They also have the schedule up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. The odds are you can find yourself a schedule for the Arroyo Seco Saints as they continue play. And I mean, you look at tomorrow afternoon, where they will be going to the Conejo Oaks, and they'll be right back home on Thursday night. That will be a 6:05 start. So if you've got nothing to do on Thursday, or if you do have something to do and you're telling yourself, hey, I would like to go and see some quality baseball being played, as it's quickly no balls and 2 strikes to Colin Shepard, then make your way out to Jackie Robinson Field. Watch this team play. 2-2 tie. New guy on the mound as Doug McGee takes over. A submarine delivery. Maybe more sidearm action going on as McGee delivers to home.
As we talked about from Orange Coast College, in the Orange Empire Conference in junior college baseball ranks, OCC, as they go by, one of the better junior colleges in all of California JC baseball.
This will be a 1-6-3 ground down. Not necessarily the most orthodox thing you will see every day, but it does go off of McGee's foot, deflects over to short, toss to first is in time, and Colin Shepard is retired as out number 1.
And there's one thing I did see on Instagram about a month ago, when OCC was about to head to their state championship round up north in Bakersfield. And Kobe Bryant from the Los Angeles Lakers actually visited their team before they headed out to practice at OCC. Came out to the field and visited the OCC baseball team. So one of those kind of shocking moments if you're an OCC baseball player.
I mean, just imagine it.
Yeah.
You're just getting set for practice. Maybe you're picking up your glove. You're ready to go and get set for a championship round up north, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're thinking, I think that's Kobe Bryant.
You can't miss him at 6'4", 6'5".
6'7".
6'7".
6'7".
That's just ridiculous. So he definitely stands out like a sore thumb. So, you talk about a walking, living legend. There it is right there, especially in L.A., across the Southern California landscape. Kobe Bryant's one of the most respected guys in all of L.A.
This is smacked towards left field. It's going to just get to the corner, but foul for Jack Smith. And you talk about Kobe's celebrity here in Southern California. He's one of the few guys, possibly in all the world, where you will walk around Southern California and you'll see just a Kobe jersey being casually worn. It's August. Jack Smith swings and misses, and he is a strikeout for out number 2. And, I've seen Kobe Bryant Dodger jerseys.
Yeah.
I've seen Kobe Bryant Kings jersey. There are people who just walk around in Kobe stuff, and he was just that type of legend, and you just have to imagine it. If you're an Orange Coast College player getting set to go to the championship, you look up, Kobe Bryant is getting ready to talk to you guys. I'm pretty sure you're listening.
That's a moment you will never forget, I'll tell you that much.
No balls, 1 strike, 2 gone.
And getting back to this ball game, that was a big error in the bottom. The top of the 6th inning by Drew Cowley. We were talking about in between innings. Those are just the errors you can't afford if you're the Arroyo Seco Saints. You've lost 5 straight, and you really can't afford to lose any more going forward in the season. If you lose this game, it's just such a deflating feeling going into the rest of the week. This is the first game of the week. Had Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off to kind of regroup as a team, and to start the week off with a win would be huge right now for the Saints kind of going forward this week, playing Wednesday, Thursday, having Friday off, and then playing Saturday, Sunday in Santa Barbara. So this is definitely going to set the tempo for the rest of the week if you're the Saints.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Upcoming home games, you have Thursday at 6:05, as this is fouled off to the right-hand side and into the crowd. Then you look at next Wednesday, 6:05 start once again against Ventura County. Next Saturday as well. That will be a 6:05 start. Pretty much all of the games here at Brookside Park's Jackie Robinson Field will be a 6:05 begin. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2-2 game between 2 of the best teams in Southern California.
And the Saints will make their first road trip up to Santa Barbara this weekend, playing back-to-back games. Will not be spending the night up there, which is a big factor. Having to make that drive, about a 2.5, 3-hour drive.
Well, you look at the way that it's all setting up for Arroyo Seco, and you say, okay, Santa Barbara this weekend, 2 days in a row. After that, you're going to have 3 of your next 4 games be on the road as well. And just overall, just by looking at the schedule, you have tomorrow, which is going to be at Conejo. Then the day after, which is Thursday, that'll be back here. To end this month, you have a total of 6 away games and 3 home games. After that, you're going to have multiple games that will be on the road. In fact, Arroyo Seco won't even be back home until July the 12th. There's a ball that just goes outside.
Yeah, so this is really kind of getting to the point where it's a grueling schedule right now for the Saints. And if you really, if you want to be a championship team, this is the chance you have to persevere as a team and kind of work through this. I know it's obviously not what you're not in the ideal spots you want to be at 2-7, but it's part of the baseball game, and you have to be able to adjust and work through that adversity. Luckily, most of these games are not too far from Pasadena. You have a lot of games in La Mirada and Fullerton, which are maybe 45-minute commute. So only a few games. Yeah, exactly. So only a few games that are San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara, that distance. But nonetheless, it's still it's not like playing at the comfort of your own ballpark. So
then
it'll be a challenge.
You have that big road trip coming up in just about 2 weeks, and the one we referenced is. As this one is bounced over towards short, taking a high hop and picking it up, firing over to first is Jacob Dominguez. Beautiful throw. He's able to make the play, and Dalton Ney will be retired. We'll get back to that giant road trip and what Arroyo Seco has coming up next for them once we come back from the break. Our score, is a 2-2 tie between Arroyo Seco and the OC Riptide.
Batting the shortstop, number 15, Jacob Dominguez.
So get this, as I'm looking on the social media sites around this beautiful thing we call the internet, our current score is a 2-2 tie between the OC Riptide and the Arroyo Seco Saints. First delivery, that is to Dominguez, and it is immediately going to be bounced over to short. Picking it up and tossing over to first is Drew Cowley. He's able to complete the play. It's a nice toss, an even better pick by Cooper Williams over at first. And a 6-3 grounder is out number one. Bradley Yekic is up next. In the Midwest League All-Star game, they are going through a new rule change for them. In their All-Star game, it just currently started the 10th inning. Not only does the inning start with a runner on second base, but even after 10 innings, if the game is tied, the game is done.
No. So we're going to have a tie in baseball.
You will have a tie in the All-Star game in the Midwest League if it does stay the same. And not to mention that the runner starts, there's a runner who starts at second base. So it's essentially international tie-breaking rules for softball, with the exception being that, in this case, the game would end even after the 10th inning.
Also, in the World Baseball Classic, in the past World Baseball Classic, the very last one that just took place, in the 11th inning, if the game was still tied, they started games with runners on second base as well. So, I mean, this is not the first time you've kind of seen this rule be implemented in baseball. I mean, as I watched the World Baseball Classic, I actually saw against the Puerto Rico and Venezuela game, or the Netherlands game, Netherlands versus Puerto Rico. They implemented that rule because they went into the 11th inning and the runner was at second base. And I think it adds a little bit of drama to it. I mean, obviously, I know the baseball purists might not be too happy about that because they want to preserve the game how it is, and that might be tinkering with it a little bit too much. But, I mean, for me, I found no problem with it. I think it kind of speeds up the game and gets fans more initiated in the game and makes things a little more interesting and a little more focused, I think, if you're a pitcher and a player and a fan overall.
3 balls and 2 strikes to Yekic, who takes that last one right at the knees. And perhaps maybe there's a compromise to be made between people who want to see the runner over at second and the runner not on base at all, just traditional baseball being played, as Reed goes into the line and delivers. It is bounced over to Cooper Williams. He'll take a couple steps back, toss back to Reed. Reed will cover, and it's a 3-1 ground out for out number 2, with Aaron Simpson coming up next. But perhaps the kind of compromise that could be made is maybe starting the runner at first rather than second, because a lot of people think, oh, okay, you're tinkering with it too much. Because the runner starts at second, all of a sudden, maybe you have a pass ball and an error, the game's over.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that. Okay, well, if you start the runner at first, it's essentially the guy just got to walk.
Yeah. I just see it as, like, I think baseball purists are looking at it from the sense that that runner on first was not earned. And I think, I mean, like I said, rightfully so. It's a good argument to make. I mean, it's just you kind of just gave him a freebie. But at the same time, I think baseball has to go through changes. I think there's a clash right now going on in baseball at all levels between, you know, the kind of the old school and the new school version of baseball, and, you know, the purist and the idealist and the you know, people that are trying to transform the game. And I think Rob Manfred is doing a good job of that in Major League Baseball as a commissioner. I think what he did with the home run. Just for example, the home run derby, not something that's too, overly populated, but I mean, I know you kind of gave me a cringy look there. I kind of like the new home run derby. I think it makes it more exciting and kind of gives it, more fast-paced feel to it that isn't so slow. Because you saw the reason I say that is because you look at guys who would hit 35 home runs in the first round of Josh Hamilton at New York Yankee Stadium. He had 25 home runs, 28 home runs in the first round, which is an unbelievable round. He did not win that home run derby because he ran out of steam and got tired. So I'd see it as, a new way to look at the home run derby. I think a lot of guys it was just kind of feeling flat for a while, and I think the new home run derby format kind of gave baseball a new direction.
Yeah, I kind of cringe at that just a little bit because no longer are you looking at the home run derby saying, oh, okay, I want these vast amount of home runs. I want to see the longest home runs possible. As this one is sent down the last field line, it's going to be fair. And digging for two is Simpson. He will stop around first, and it will be a leadoff single. Actually, not a leadoff single, but the leadoff guy got a single. And Aaron Simpson is on for the second, make it a third time today. He has his second single, first hit of this inning for the OC Riptide. And up next will be Luke Bundy. But you look at this brand new format in the home run derby. It used to be about how many home runs could you hit, and we want to be awestruck by how far you can go. Well, now more of the emphasis is on how quickly can you do it. And I think that it kind of takes away from the game because now you can see guys like a Corey Seager who enter the batting or the home run derby. Corey Seager is not a home run hitter. There are a lot of guys who in the last 2 years have entered that home run derby who are just not home run hitters. And yet they're entered there because they have the stamina to hold up quicker. Now you ask yourself, back in the day, as this one is hammered to left field. It's got a charge on it. It's going to one-hop the wall. Simpson digging around third. He's going to make it all the way home, and it will not come with a toss. A 2-out RBI double into left field for Luke Bandy, and that will make it a 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide.
And the first thing I mentioned before the game, I said, who's going to have the 2-out RBIs? Who is going to cash in runs with 2 outs in the inning? And you look at the OC Riptide, he had a 2-out single down the line. Down the left field line, Luke Bandy comes up. It's a 2-out double RBI. That is momentum shift if you are the OC Riptide. Yes, it is 1 run. Yes, you're only up 3-2. But that right now, if you're looking at that, for the OC Riptide, that is a huge run. It feels like an enormous run or enormous feat to accomplish if you're the Saints to get over. And 2-out RBIs, like I mentioned, that's where you make your money in the Major League Baseball. That's where you make your money as a professional, as we get a pitching visit right now. And looking at it so far, that looks like something that it'll deflate the Saints as a team right there. Like that, you were about to leave the inning, and now you're behind by 1, and you were winning this game for the majority of the game. And this is twice now against the OC Riptide where you were winning majority of the game, and you're giving up the lead now. So the Saints really have to dig deep right here and kind of test who they are and how their character is and kind of see if they can bounce back in this ball game in the last 3 innings.
And it's going to be tough, especially considering you have that, I guess you would say, negative momentum on your back. The monkey on your back is there. The last 5 games haven't gone your way. You were 2-2. In fact, at one point, you were 2-1. But the last 5 games have just not gone your way. And all of a sudden, you're asking yourself, if you're an Arroyo Seco player, perhaps you're asking yourself, man, what do we have to do to come away with a victory? And the answer lies in what you stated earlier. You have to come across with 2-out hits. When presented with them, you can't run yourself out of an inning in 2 straight innings with runners on third. And then when you're also given chances in the field, you just can't afford for errors to be committed. Blasted into center field, but not deep at all. And making the catch is Jack Smith as he retreats a couple of steps. 1 run comes across on Aaron Simpson's single and a double by Luke Bandy with 2 outs on the board. It's now a 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide. We go to stretch time. This is Arroyo Seco Baseball.
Riptide. Now in for the Riptide, number 16, Aiden Pierce. Now batting for the Saints, second baseman, number 1, Gabe Chavez.
So as you heard in the background, a couple of different changes coming in. Let's start off with Gabe Chavez coming up to the plate. He will represent the top of the order, due up for the Arroyo Seco Saints. And the OC Riptide recently taking a 3-2 lead. They take the field once more, and they will have a brand new pitcher. And Steven, a guy, another local product. And you can pretty much say that out of about most of the CCL. But it's especially true about this one.
Yeah, Hayden Pierce from Glendora High School, so about 10 minutes down the 210 freeway. Not too far here from Jackie Robinson Memorial Field, and attends the University of the Pacific. So, like you mentioned, a lot of local guys from San Gabriel Valley coming to play in the CCL this season.
Chavez towards the right field is dunking and finally lands in the glove of the OC Riptide. So our score is 3-2. The OC Riptide leading by 1. We're in the bottom half of the 7th inning, with Arroyo Seco coming up next with Drew Cowley and John Thomas as well.
21, Drew Cowley.
Cowley, a left-handed hitter so far today. He started off with a single in the first inning and then got hit by a pitch and stranded on second and then flew out to center.
Yeah, go ahead. Excuse me.
No, I was just going to say that Cowley immediately saw a pitch on the outside half. You're good.
Yeah, looking at, the Saints so far right now, you have 3 more opportunities to kind of get back in this ball game, and, already a leadoff out for the Saints in this bottom half of the 7th inning right here. So you have to get back in the game right now if you're the Saints. You cannot wait around for the 8th and 9th inning and let this Riptide team kind of get comfortable and get in the groove. So, you're 5, like we've mentioned all game long. You've lost 5 in a row. You can't really, there isn't much farther to go from there, but if you want the season to go from competitive to a long season, you have to win this ball game here tonight.
2 balls and 1 strike as Kelly takes in the dirt once more. Lights just starting to creep their way into effect as dusk sets in here at Brookside Park. Cowley down to short, Dominguez to first, and there is 2 outs.
Yeah, and we've talked about a lot of times how the Saints kind of shot themselves in the foot in this ball game. Cooper Williams getting picked off at third base, Dalton Ney getting picked off at third base, and just big opportunity. Drew Cowley's error at shortstop. I know he made a nice play in the following inning, but at the same time, you cannot commit those errors if you're the Saints. Those are huge moments in the ball game, and just crucial points that this ball game can be a lot different if those things did not happen.
1 ball and no strike as John Thomas comes up to the plate, and this may be the first time in a while that we haven't seen him at least get a single. This may be his final opportunity at the plate. It's now 2 balls, no strikes, and a 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide. First time that they have led in this ball game. It was 2-0 Arroyo Seco after 1, 2-1 Arroyo Seco after 2. And then just recently, the OC Riptide scrapping 1 across in the 6th and then getting 1 in the 7th as well to not only tie up the game but take a lead. Thomas takes that beneath his knees, and he will flip the bat on his way over to first.
And Thomas kind of remaining one of those focal points of the Saints lineup. And right now you have the hottest hitter for the Saints, and if they win this ball game, it's going to be because of this guy, Cooper Williams, right now with 2 outs. And like I've mentioned, it's going to sound like a broken record, but 2 out RBIs, your hottest hitter at the plate right now for the Saints. He has to find a gap, find a ball down the line, and try to get Thomas around from first base.
Thomas is leading off from first. They're going to give that right field corner to Cooper Williams. There's a lot of space to roam in right center field and in the right field corner. The 3:45 marker not being patrolled by any means. Thomas is going to take off to second, and he'll get picked off pretty easily. So they run themselves out of another inning, and for Arroyo Seco, that's just tough luck, especially with Cooper Williams coming up to the dish. It's the 2nd straight time this afternoon. Oddly enough, that Williams has been up and a runner gets picked off to end the inning, and then in another inning, he was the runner who got picked off.
And it's just, you can see Cooper Williams at the plate right now, kind of frustrated because he knows he has the capability to kind of drive these runs in, and he's left stranded at the plate right now in the inning over. So bad base running for the Saints so far, but I mean, 2 more innings. Let's see what they can do here down the stretch.
Our score is 3-2. The OC Riptide lead it over the Arroyo Seco Saints. We're going to go to the top of the 8th inning when we come back. Welcome back to Arroyo Seco Baseball. As we get set for this top half of the 8th inning, it'll be Prees, followed by McOrder and Soika. Arroyo Seco is trying as hard as they can to make sure that they stop this OC Riptide offense and get some runs on the board themselves. Well, they're going to have to wait for the runs on their half of the scoreboard until the next half of the inning. But for the moment being, this ball gets popped up in foul ground, trying to run over to it and not getting there in time. Reason being, it gets into the crowd as we have a couple of changes coming up here for Arroyo Seco. Behind home plate taking over is Wyatt Kelly. So Wyatt Kelly is now the catcher this afternoon for Arroyo Seco. And actually, he's on the mound, excuse me. And behind home plate will be Mitch Kerner. That goes just below the knees at 1 ball and 1 strike. Ryan Osborne joined by Stephen Baltiera over to my right as this pink sky here in Southern California takes over, as do the lights at Jackie Robinson Field. Wyatt Kelly goes to the set at a 1 ball and 1 strike count. Next up to Prees, and he will make it 1-2 with a beautiful sweeping slider inside half.
And Mitch Kerner, he had a start last week against the Santa Barbara Foresters here at Brookside Park. And even though the Saints lost that game, was the player of the game for them. Had a big day, a big night, excuse me. So let's see what he does with opportunity here late in the game.
Fastball for Wyatt Kelly. That goes too far outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And you look at Arroyo Seco, they have a 3-catcher staff. You look at Mitch Kerner behind the plate, Nick Lacayo, who we saw earlier, and Bryce Gray out of Notre Dame as well.
Yeah, and I was talking to Mitch Kerner after, he had that big night last week against the Foresters. And, you look at Bryce Gray and Nick Lacayo, Michigan State, University of Notre Dame, and Kerner is really undecided at the point. He's not really, from a big-name school as those guys. But I talked to him, and I said, do you have kind of a chip on your shoulder? He's like, of course I do. He's like, he was telling me that, I know I'm capable of playing with these kind of, this high quality of talent, and I know I belong here, so expect to see more of Kerner in the lineup for the Saints.
And Kerner will catch a strikeout as Prees can't come around and get the bat on the curveball delivered by Wyatt Kelly.
And I think if your head coach Sean Bueller, I mean, you're looking at Kerner, I think, as a kind of a guy that can boost your lineup late in the game right now. Has shown some offensive potential, so I think there's a reason he's in the ballgame right now, kind of give that offensive boost.
Wyatt Kelly delivers a strike right at the knees. All of a sudden, the breeze decides to pick itself up and make an entrance into this Pasadena area.
Yeah, temperature's starting to drop here at Jackie Robinson Field, so
pretty central location here. I mean, though from our vantage point, all we see is trees. I mean, it's not a bad view, but what we do see is trees. 1 ball and 2 strikes. You go down and take maybe Arroyo or Seco. Either way,
Seco
they both kind of wind their way up towards Midtown Pasadena, and you can see Pasadena City College, which has a history of its own. This ball gets all the way to the backstop at 2 balls and 2 strikes. I mean, the guy who this field is named after went to PCC and also didn't play at the place behind us, but definitely played for the team who now currently occupies the Rose Bowl. That'd be Jackie Robinson, of course, as McCorder will strike out for the 3rd time this afternoon. He has had a tough time at the dish.
yeah, and obviously Jackie Robinson is a figure here in Pasadena, kind of a legend of Pasadena, so it makes sense to name this field after Jackie Robinson Memorial Field. And of course, PCC baseball plays at this field as well during the middle of their season, so kind of some history there behind the Crown City, as they call it here.
This one goes up and high. One thing that I could never really understand, and okay, I do get the fact that, you know, Jackie, legendary player, Hall of Famer in his own right, not just because he did break the color barrier, but UCLA decided to retire his number 42.
Yes.
While that is an absolutely awesome tribute, number 42, never to be worn again after Jelly Felix and Kenny Young both end up going away from the football team and the softball team, respectively, this year. It will never be worn again for an official athlete. And yet, Jackie never wore number 42 for UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more, I understand what you're saying there, as he never wore that number for UCLA, but I think it was more due to the fact that number 42 has become so iconic across all sports, and that's what he's kind of been associated with. I mean, obviously, you look at the movie 42, you know, it's just 42 has kind of been so iconic and associated with Jackie Robinson. I think that UCLA said, you know what, let's just go ahead and retire that number because it is associated with Robinson, even though he did not wear that number at our university.
Which is fair. I mean, you talk about there's a movie that's out there. If people think of the number 42, immediately you start thinking of Jackie Robinson.
Exactly.
But I don't know. It just puzzled me.
Yeah.
When I initially saw the announcement, and it is an amazing tribute. The fact that they are going to retire his number across all sports.
Yes.
Over at UCLA. But it also partially blew my mind to know that he actually never wore the number for UCLA.
Yeah.
Nor did he wear it for PCC.
Correct.
And this is a guy who, as that one is swung and missed by Chase Sebi, it's no balls and 1 strike and a runner over at first after the single by Austin Soika. This is a guy who played or competed in track and field, played football, played basketball, played baseball. In fact, many people at the time said that baseball wasn't even his best sport.
Which is amazing to think of because he was so good at it for such a long time.
The 10 years that he played in the MLB, not only was he famous for being the guy to break the color barrier, but he was also very good. I mean, you look at his numbers, and they're comparable with some of the better second basemen of all time.
Yes, and I think what makes him so special is that at that time, if Jackie Robinson was not as good as he was, baseball would have torn to shreds, and he probably would have been wouldn't have had a long career.
So this gets lifted off towards the right field side, and making the catch for Arroyo Seco will be Cameron Briggs. That's going to do it for the 8th inning. We're going to go to the bottom of the 8th, and a little bit more on our talk in just a sec. Our score is 3-2, the OC Riptide with the lead over the Arroyo Seco Saints. Cooper Williams, the first guy up. And he will be joined afterwards by Nick Lacayo's spot in the lineup, and we'll see whether or not Mitch Kerner comes in for him, and then Colin Shepard. Before we went to the break, actually, first let's get to the new guy on the mound. As now on the mound for the OC Riptide, we're currently looking for a number on him, and we actually don't have him on our roster quite yet. So this one gets bounced over towards the right-hand side. As Cooper Williams, who has had a pretty good day so far at the dish. Chad Wilson is the guy who we're looking for now on the mound for the OC Riptide.
Another submariner for the Riptide so far in this ball game. But as we were talking about Jackie Robinson before the break.
Yeah, we were talking about Jackie Robinson, and I think he made a pretty hefty statement as this one is sent over towards the left-hand side. On his high horse is Soika, but he runs out of room, and it lands out of play. Cooper Williams with another chance here in the bottom of the eighth. Yeah, but you look at what you said, and you said, you know, if Jackie wasn't that good, then arguably the MLB and mainly just the fans in certain areas would have eaten him alive.
Exactly. And that's not to say that they didn't eat him alive already as it was. I mean, you look at, you know, what he had to deal with on a regular basis, you know, playing in the Major League Baseball. I mean, just not only from, you know, other teams, but from fans. And it just, you know, it was an ugly situation. But like I said, I was mentioning, he was, you know, he dealt with so much. And if he wasn't, you know, half the player that he already was, I mean, like I said, his legacy probably wouldn't have meant as much because baseball would have said, you know what, there's no room for him. He's not that good. There's no room for, you know, a color barrier to be broken. So, I mean, he was able to deal with so much immense pressure and an immense, you know, responsibility bestowed on him as Williams grounds that one at second base right there for the first out of the bottom of the eighth inning. But like I mentioned, he dealt with so much and he had such a responsibility to not just him, but, you know, just overall minorities across America, and the fact that he was able to break that color barrier kind of, you know, it set the tone not just for baseball but for sports in general, and I think that's why he's such a valuable athlete, and that's why you see his number retired across all of baseball and across UCLA athletics.
Well, I mean, earlier you said it, you expanded on it just now as this one gets fouled off to the left-hand side. You ask yourself, okay, if Jackie wasn't as good as Jackie was, would he have been known that well? Sure, he would have still broken the barrier, but he would have been known as just the guy who broke the barrier, not the legend of Jackie Robinson.
And I think it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The,
Excuse me.
the way that is presented is my question to you: who is the guy to break the AL color barrier?
That is a tough question because I do not know the answer to that one.
He came in only 2 months after Jackie. Larry Doby.
Oh.
Hall of Famer in his own right, 253 home runs. However, he didn't have that same transcendent game that Jackie did.
True.
Jackie could beat you with his legs. He could beat you whenever he was on the base paths. When he was on the base paths, he was an absolute terror to opposing pitchers who hadn't seen that style of speed. As a swing and a miss is delivered, and it will end up being Kerner who goes down on strikes. But
yeah, go ahead.
Jackie presented this new level of speed on the base paths that many people hadn't seen since the Ty Cobb days. And a lot of pitchers hadn't been able to face for a long time. And Jackie transcended the game with his steals of home. He impacted the 1955 World Series and got the Brooklyn Dodgers a title. Larry Doby, though he was very good, 253 home runs in his own right, hitting around 300 for his career. He isn't as known as Jackie Robinson, even though he faced the same perils and the same fans, and possibly even more so, because the AL at the time was more Southern-based.
Very much, and that's a great point because, like I said, I didn't know who was the one that broke the AL barrier. And I'm pretty sure he dealt with his own adversity and just as much as Jackie Robinson did, but the legacy isn't as much as he doesn't have a big legacy as Robinson did. But the reason I say that, if Robinson wasn't that good, I mean, let's say,
You know what? Not only are they good, but if I want a championship, this is the way that I have to go. And it's unfortunate that they had to have those types of, I guess we'll say, incentive to try, okay, if I want a championship, I have to go and look for other talent outside of my comfort zone, whether it be in the Negro Leagues, whether it be in also the Hispanic Leagues as well.
Yes.
Whether it be also overseas. They realized, hey, we need to go, if we want to win championships, we need to reach out.
Expand our reach.
Expand their reach, and then it also took away, slowly at first, but it took away racism in baseball. It took away that color barrier. It took away the unwritten rule that it was strictly meant to be just a one-sided game.
I think one of the most famous quotes from Robinson as well is, he said, look, you don't have to like me. You just have to respect me. And that's all I ask. And, I don't care if you like me based on your personal beliefs, but you're going to respect me when I'm on the field because I am just as good, if not better, than anybody else on the field playing Major League Baseball as well.
This was a swinging bunt by Jack Smith, third base side, that goes foul. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. A 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide. Arroyo Seco with a runner at first. They are trying to get a run across. It is Colin Shepard who had himself a walk. And now Jack Smith is trying to drive him across. Smith with considerable speed. We've already talked about it before. And Arroyo Seco is currently down to their final 4 outs. They want to get back into this one as Smith fouls this one off to the right-hand side. And it will get its way out of play. But Jackie was that type of player. If he didn't really care about, okay, maybe he did care about what you thought of him. But on the outside, he had that ability to fight. As this next pitch to Jack Smith gets fouled off behind home plate.
He had the leadership qualities, I think, that you want. And I think that's what Major League Baseball was looking for when they were trying to break the color barrier, and more specifically, branch rookies, that I don't want a player that's just good, but someone who has the leadership qualities and the mental capacity to deal with the kind of hatred and the things that he endured while he played Major League Baseball as well.
And you just look at the way that it immediately impacted the Dodgers. And right after Jackie came and started for the Dodgers, because he was starting at first, he had a couple of starts at third, shortstop as well, and then finally found his way home to second base. But immediately following, the next year they went out and signed Roy Campanella. They went out and got Don Newcomb, as this one is grounded over towards short. Jack Smith on his high horse, but just isn't able to beat it out in time. It will be a 6-3 grounder to end the inning. We're going to go to the top of the 9th inning. The final frame is on the board. If the Arroyo Seco Saints can't come back to tie it, it's a 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide on top of the Arroyo Seco Saints. We welcome you back to Arroyo Seco Baseball. Currently on the air, Ryan Osborne joined by Stephen Baltier over to my right-hand side.
As the music kind of was lagging a little bit there to cut it off. I was trying to signal someone over there down in the comm PR and the comm marketing interns. But we all situated now for the top of the 9th.
First pitch for Wyatt Kelly is a fastball, chest high to Jacob Dominguez. Dominguez in this game, well, he is 0 for 3 so far. He grounded out all 3 times he has come up to the plate. The right-handed hitting shortstop sees the next pitch. That goes too low. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. I'm Ryan Osborne. Stephen Baltiero over to my right-hand side. We've been having ourselves a little conversation going back and forth about the Jackie Robinsons, the Larry Dobies of the world. It all stemmed, I guess, the rabbit hole started when we started talking about UCLA and them retiring the number 42. Then it kind of slowly paved its way over to the legacies of Jackie Robinson, also mentioning Larry Doby as well, and how those 2 guys impacted not only the game but the world of sports. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Next delivery, that goes too low.
And just his importance right now to, where we're standing right now here in Pasadena. I mean, this is just, he meant so much to the city of Pasadena, and that's kind of the reason why we kind of get into Jackie Robinson and what he meant to baseball, because we're covering baseball here at the collegiate level, and we're covering it in a city where he meant so much too. So, I mean, it's only right to talk about Robinson when you talk about Pasadena and baseball.
Well, I mean, you also talk about that, and yeah, we're in Pasadena. We're also talking about Jackie Robinson and how he broke the color barrier. It also has an effect, even though people may not realize it, it also has an effect in the broadcast booth as well. Because before that, it was predominantly one-sided when you look at the broadcast booth overall. And then after Jackie came, then you started seeing guys like Jaime Jarrin.
Yes.
And, of course, Jaime,
legendary, Dodger.
still going as the Dodgers radio announcer in Spanish. And they opened doors for us to be back here. I mean, 100%. Myself, from Hispanic heritage as well.
Same, very much. Yeah, very much well. I mean, like you said, that's what I meant. That's what Robinson's, his impact is so much, because it's not, as I mentioned, it wasn't just baseball, it was football, it was track, it was every single sport. And like you mentioned, not just the sports on the field, the athletes on the field, but everything that surrounded sports, as far as writers, journalists. He opened so many doors as far as journalists and broadcasters and everybody who covered this sport, because now it opened a whole new gate of a different cultural perspective on the game that everybody loves so much.
And you also have to wonder, at that time, when Jackie opened the door, when Larry opened the door, when they both entered the MLB, you think after that, baseball became America's pastime. Before that, it was a northern pastime. It was centered around major cities. But then after that, it opened itself to a brand new community. Because once the African-American players, such as the brilliance of Jackie Robinson, Don Newcomb, Larry Doby, as a swing and miss is delivered by the one and only Bradley Yakic, you saw a lot more diverse crowds. You saw people who had the ability now to go out and watch a baseball game and not be relegated to a specific side or have to go and specifically go down to either Mexico or Cuba or Venezuela to watch Latino leagues. They didn't have to specifically go out of their way to find the Negro Leagues. All of a sudden, it became America's pastime.
Yes, very much.
And that's where you see all this diversity in baseball. So much is presented in the game of baseball, as it's now 2 balls and 1 strike to Yakic. And he takes too far inside, nearly hits him.
And to kind of contextualize that, sorry about that, to kind of contextualize it, I mean, you look at the World Baseball Classic now, and you see Dominican countries, you see Venezuela, you see Puerto Rico, you see, Japan, you see, Team Israel, Team Italy, you see these different countries, and you see their fans show up to the stadiums, and they bring a different vibe to baseball. They bring a different vibe, as Jekic, pops up to shortstop to counter for the second out here in the top of the ninth. I mean, they bring a different vibe and they bring a different atmosphere that isn't so one-sided. We obviously we love Major League Baseball, but it just kind of seems like the same culture and the same thing. We all as Americans, myself included, we see we cheer for the same things and we do the same things. But when you see the World Baseball Classic, and I had a chance to go last year at Dodger Stadium between the Puerto Rico and Venezuela game, and they're bringing rattlers and they're getting they're doing different songs and they're dancing. It's just a different vibe and a different atmosphere. And I know it kind of rubs some people the wrong way, especially Americans, because that's not how we're used to. But at the same time, I think the diversity and how this game is played throughout the country. And it's not the country but the world. There's a diversity of how it's played and how people celebrate and do things. I mean, it's amazing to see across the globe how much baseball has impact across the culture and different cultures around the globe.
Wyatt Kelly is going to deliver to Aaron Simpson, and he is quickly up 0-2. With 2 outs in the top half of the ninth inning, a 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide over the Arroyo Seco Saints. And you talk about that all over the world aspect, that's when you start to see Little League open up. That's when you start to see, as this one goes up and too high, and Mitch Kerner has to go back for the baseball, that's when you start to see the baseball bat at every corner. You can go to the 99-cent store. You can go to your local neighborhood supermarket, and they're going to have a plastic baseball bat. They'll have a wood baseball bat. They may have a metal baseball bat. It doesn't matter where you go. You're going to be able to find a glove. You're going to be able to find a bat. You can find a ball. And it became an international sport that everybody knows. Everybody plays. Many people may not like the game, but if you ask them, hey, can you tell me the most basic rules of baseball? Even people who don't like baseball or who grew up just not liking sports in general, they'll be able to say, oh yeah, I know X amount of baseball rules. Or maybe I know Jackie Robinson. I know his story. I know his impact. It made it for Jackie and also Larry Doby in the American League, but specifically for Jackie, since we're at Jackie Robinson Field, it made it a global effect, as you were saying.
Awesome. Of course, you hit it right on the nail with that out there awesomely.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be the bottom of the ninth inning. Coming up, a 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide over the Arroyo Seco Saints.
Pinch hitting for the Arroyo Seco Saints, number 20 out of Pacific, Alex Laforestier.
Alex Laforestier will be the first one due up for the Arroyo Seco Saints. He's coming in for Cameron Briggs. It'll be Dalton Ney, and then the top of the lineup with Gabe Chavez. Arroyo Seco needs things to happen and quickly if they want to get back in this game. And very quickly, the OC Riptide realize it as we have a casualty on the field.
The umpire is not safe right there from damage behind home plate. Walked that one off.
But we have ourselves a new pitcher on the mound, and this is a guy with quite the intimidating effect whenever he goes onto the 10-foot hill.
This is an absolute behemoth on the mound, to be quite frankly right here. Absolute behemoth right here. Jacob Parker, the new pitcher for the Riptide, but out of Georgia Southern. So, you know, like you mentioned, on that mound, I mean, he has to look at least 20 feet up there. I mean, it's going to be one of those, like you mentioned, one of the most intimidating looks, but we'll see what he's got here to try to close out the inning close out the game for the Riptide.
One can only wonder what he's topping out at, pitching-wise as well. These are hopefully not the last ups for Arroyo Seco, or if they put up enough runs, then yes, hopefully these are the final ups. But for the moment being, Laforestier is up at the plate, and Arroyo Seco needs runners in a hurry. Any way they can get them. A walk is just as good as a hit. Or at least to some people. One ball and one strike.
Look at the Saints right now. I mean, you cannot afford to drop your 6th straight game. I mean, this is just not something that head coach Sean Bueller wants to see. So, I mean, we'll see how it happens right now.
Soika gets the grounder at third. He will toss over to first, and one is gone.
I mean, I covered last Friday's game against the OC Riptide in Fullerton at Fullerton College, and, you know, and similar to right now, I mean, the OC Riptide were down by 1 hit in the bottom of the 9th. The first out of the game was, the first out was, you know, they got the leadoff man out, and they were still able to come back in that game. So the Saints, you know, have a chance to kind of get some revenge and walk off fashion as well, but they got to get going not now, but right now. So we'll see what happens.
So Parker will deliver, and the first pitch to Tristan Peterson, who's batting for Dalton Ney, and that will be a strike. And I guess this is part of the benefits of being at a CCL. Tristan Parker and Laforestier both were starters earlier on in the season, possibly through the first 5 games or so. And now all of a sudden you're getting to the bottom half of the order late in a game, and you can bring those 2 guys off your bench? That is pretty decent if you're able to bring starter caliber guys off your bench to pinch hit. 1 ball and 1 strike. These are essentially not quite maybe all-star teams of all around the country, but it definitely is top talent, whether it be D1, D2, D3, or even NAIA and also community college. This is top talent from around the country. Next up, a swing and a miss from Peterson, who is looking for the fence in left field.
And like you mentioned there, you know, I've always heard, you know, kind of growing up, 'cause I played baseball growing up, and the thing I always heard is it doesn't really matter if you're in D2, D3, NAIA, Division I college baseball. I mean, as long as you can play, scouts are going to find you. You know, scouts are going to find the talent where it's at. So it doesn't really matter what division or what rank you're playing at. If you can play ball, the scouts, you know, and the talent, they will find you.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide. They've got Parker on the mound, who's at least 6'6".
At least.
And we say that jokingly, as actually, if I remember correctly, he is 6'7" from the last time that he came in to pitch, and that was 2 weeks ago on opening night.
Reminds me a lot of Chris Young from the San Diego Padres back in the day, who was 6'10" on the mound.
Solid single into center field for Tristan Peterson. So the intimidation effect doesn't work on Peterson, and now Gabe Chavez has a chance to come up to the dish. And the speedy runner is going to really help the Arroyo Seco Saints out if he is able to get on the base path.
Yeah, and right now, if you're the Saints, you know, you don't need one big hit. You just need to put runners on base. Keep putting runners on base right now, and try to, you know, get at least 1 across in this forced extra innings. But I mean, just chip away and put together a nice inning if you're the Saints right here. It's the bottom of the 9th inning, and I can sense the desperation that they really want this one bad if you're the Saints. I mean, they could easily win 3 of the 4 games against the Riptide so far, but I mean, to salvage this series and go 2-2, you know, out of the first 4 games is something that is a necessity for the Arroyo Seco Saints.
Chavez takes the first pitch in there for a strike, right at the knees. Chavez, a recent addition to the lineup out of Cal State San Bernardino. A senior there out of West Covina. 5'5" is what he is listed as. And he sends this one into the right field corner. He's going to move around first, and he will stop at second. But the game-tying run moves its way down to third. Ball gets away for just a second, but the OC Riptide are able to recover. And now you have first and third for Arroyo Seco, and they have the tying run just 90 feet away. And a chance to either send this one into extras and possibly even end the game here in the ninth.
And we've talked about the Saints so far this game shooting themselves in the foot, giving up, opportunities to score runs, and they've just blown it. But this is another big opportunity for the Saints right here, and this is their last up. So this is going to play dividends right here. They can, all of those errors and all of those mishaps and those mental errors that have happened throughout the game, they have a chance to rebound and to really redeem themselves right now in this moment here in the bottom of the ninth inning.
3-2 lead for the OC Riptide. Can the Arroyo Seco Saints come back and either tie it or take a lead? And of course, a lead any time from here on out would represent a win for the Arroyo Seco Saints. 3-2. The OC Riptide are the ones, if you're watching online, they are the ones in orange. The Arroyo Seco Saints in white. They are at the dish. Parker on the mound for the OC Riptide. Jacob Parker.
You have a pinch runner now here at third base too as well.
So over at third is the very speedy Jacob Jenkins. That is a guy that you can pull off the bench. And for Coach Bueller, a beautiful move putting him down at third.
And if you're Cali right here, you might see a squeeze. We might see a squeeze in this moment just to get that tying run across the plate, just to get it done.
This would be the perfect time to lay one down the first base line as well. Because if you're looking over at first, for those of you watching online, at first, Mason McCorders holding on to Gabe Chavez at the bag, which means there would be no one there to cover if a bunt is laid down that first base line. Left-handed batting.
Now it's 0-2 now on
Drew Cali.
So you have to, in this moment, this is a big moment right here for both sides. If you're Cali, if all you can do is just put the ball in play. You have the speed to kind of lay one out if you can, but you have to be able to put the ball in play. A strikeout is unaffordable at this moment.
Next up for Parker. And Cali rockets this one down the third base side and into foul ground.
I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty nervous for the Saints right now. It's been 5 straight that they've lost, and it'd be good to get in the win column to start this week off for the Saints. So it's a big moment right now for the Saints, not just in terms of this game, but overall the season, I think.
3-2. Runner on third. Jacob Jenkins. 0-2, and Cali sends this one towards the left. Jenkins is going to get back. He's going to tag up. Does the ball get away, or is it caught? It is indeed caught, which means that Jenkins can't tag up. He was indecisive as to whether or not he was supposed to go. He couldn't tell whether it had been caught or not, and an absolute opportunity is left on the table for Arroyo Seco.
And I look at it in down the left field line. I mean, I know I can see why you're kind of in the middle, but he slid and dove for that ball. I mean, I know you can't see it on the online stream right now because left field's kind of out of the picture right now, but the left fielder slid and dove for that ball for the Riptide. And if you're Jenkins, you gotta make a decision. You gotta go for it. You have to. It's 2 outs now, but I think with his speed, I think you have the opportunity to kind of leg that one out. If you just make the decision to just go for it. I know it's kind of shallow left field, but it's just one of those things where you have to either do it or don't.
John Thomas is up, and he represents the final hope for the Arroyo Seco Saints. And we say that because there are 2 outs on the board, runners on first and third. 3-2 lead for the OC Riptide. Jacob Parker on the mound. He goes to the set, and he'll deliver home. John Thomas takes outside, and you go back to that play that was not delivered by Jacob Jenkins, I guess you would say. You mentioned the dive. If you're not sure whether or not it was caught or not, either way, you would think in that situation you go back to third, even if it's not caught, pretend that you're tagging up and still go home after a possible tag. John Thomas will take strike 2 on the outside half.
I mean, so the Saints are now down to the last strike of the game. So, I mean, like I said, that could play big dividends. But you have to, like you said, you have to draw a throw right there and make sure and to do something because, I mean, that was a prime opportunity right there for the Saints to kind of tie this ball game up.
And even if he does draw a throw, then you're seeing Chavez move up to second, at least into scoring position with 2 outs. 1 ball and 2 strikes. John Thomas at the plate. The next up from Parker, and it goes too high. Above the letters for 2-2.
I mean, you have the 2 best hitters right now for the Saints, and on deck, I mean, that's a guy that's extremely hot so far for this game, and Cooper Williams on deck for the Saints. So, I mean, if you're Parker on the mound, you want to get Thomas, but Thomas is good in his own right, one of the best hitters for the Saints. So, the right man's up for the Saints. It's up to them to kind of execute right now here late in the game.
John Thomas sees the next pitch from Parker, and it's a swing and a miss. That will do it for the game. The OC Riptide come across with the victory. A come-from-behind 3-2 win for the OC Riptide. So that's going to do it for this ball game. Tomorrow afternoon, it will be the Arroyo Seco Saints taking on the Conejo Oaks out in, what is that, beyond Santa Barbara?
It'll be out there in Thousand Oaks, California, so a little bit past L.A. That game will not be broadcasted. We will be back here on Thursday at Brookside Park, and that game will be on broadcast live stream with me and Anthony Alejandres on the call for that one. Then Friday off, and then Saturday we will also have that broadcast for our first away game broadcast of the season in Santa Barbara against the Santa Barbara Foresters at Pershing Park in Santa Barbara. Sunday, no broadcast, but that is the schedule. So Thursday and Saturday will be the next broadcast for Arroyo Seco Saints baseball on the live YouTube stream. But so far this season, 2-8, so not looking so good in the early part of the season for the Saints.
Quick recap of this game. We take you back to the first inning where it looked very well at the start, where Arroyo Seco put up 2 runs in the bottom half of the first. The OC Riptide scrapped across 1 in the second, 1 in the 6th, then 1 in the 7th, which would prove to be the game-winning run. And really, the overall theme for the Arroyo Seco Saints is those mental mistakes that come back to bite them. One of them even taking place in this 9th inning. And you just take it back. You say, okay, even if Jenkins ends up going towards home, what does John Thomas do? You go all the way back to the Drew Cowley error. You go back to the mental mistakes on the base pass. Cooper Williams getting picked off at third. You see another pickoff
Dalton
at third.
Ney getting picked off at third. So those are 2
bases loaded.
Exactly, and one of them came with no outs in one of the innings, first and third, nobody out, and Dalton Ney with 1 out and bases loaded. So I mean, it's a one-run ball game. That played big dividends, and something like that, baseball will always find a way to make those little errors become a bigger issue, and you saw it tonight here for the Arroyo Seco Saints.
So once again, please join us on a home broadcast at 6:05 on Thursday night, right here at Jackie Robinson Field, Brookside Park in Pasadena. Until then, our final score 3-2. The OC Riptide come from behind to beat the Arroyo Seco Saints. For Stephen Baltiera, I'm Ryan Osborne. Once again, our final score, as stated, 3-2. The OC Riptide take home a victory, and they improve their record to 9-3, while the Arroyo Seco Saints unfortunately drop 2-8. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and please tune in at 6:05 on Thursday night. Good night.